figured this out?
Whatever happens first. Or later, whatever happens later. 3 meetings or 30 minutes, whatever happens later. Perfect, thank you. Okay, just wondering, just because of the subject.
I looked at this, but I didn't see a workshop.
I'll answer it until somebody actually complains and says you need to. Can they, if they,
Oh, is that this?
no.
You got a list of stuff, yeah.
They can do
With
it posted.
I just can't believe we're having a workshop when
I mean, it's there, it was just wasn't
there's
posted.
so much to do
All right,
with
we're live,
budget
guys.
stuff and whatnot.
Super. Vice doing
All right, we'll call this meeting to order at 6:41 p.m. First, I'd like everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to open the floor to any citizens' comments. I see a lot of people in attendance here, but I think they're all for the next. Okay, so then moving on, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Kuchenberger.
All right, the first item on the agenda tonight is a collaborative presentation from our leadership team. Once again, this is kind of series or workshop number 3 to our 3-part series. So you'll have a chance to make some connections to what we did in our first and second workshop. And then the leadership team is going to also introduce you to the strategic blueprint that we've been building up to. And then you'll have a chance to rotate through each of the phase levels, if you will, and hear directly from the principals about their school improvement plans and the goals that they have set with their teachers and staff for their buildings this year. And so we'll start with a brief introduction. You'll have a little round robin kind of speed dating experience in the middle, and then 2 of our administrators will wrap us up at the end. And so before I introduce our introduction, or for the folks who are going to be doing the introduction, I want to just again thank the leadership team for their ability to collaborate so effectively, using a lot of technological tools to do that, but then also spending some quality time together to make sure that they're bringing you a high quality presentation. And I believe you'll be impressed once again tonight. So for our introduction, I'd like to introduce Eric Tracy, our high school principal, and Liz Lovell, our middle school assistant principal.
Thank you. And thank you for welcoming us once again for our third workshop in the series, Making the Vision a Reality. Our hope tonight is that we can work with you to stitch together the 3 workshops that we've had, all the way back from day 1 till tonight, and help you to see some of the connections that we're trying to make in our planning and in our presentations with our staff and our work with our staff across the district. If you remember back to our first workshop, it was what future do we want to create? What future do we want to create for our schools, our kids, our teachers, and our communities? We talked about the future of work. We talked about the ways in work will change and the ways in which AI, automation, and other technologies will begin to take over some of the jobs that we know to be human-based, and where new jobs and jobs that haven't even been created yet will start to appear, and those are the things that we're preparing our kids to be ready for. We talked about student agency, giving opportunities to kids to make decisions about what they're doing in or out of the classroom, giving kids the opportunity to learn from authentic projects in which they drive from start to finish a real life project with a real life problem and ultimately some sort of connected solution. And then we talked about the Massachusetts Our Way Forward report. We introduced that to you and some of the things and the thinking that are happening at the state level with deeper learning and some of the opportunities that kids and schools will have, like the Kaleidoscope Grant, to begin to review, learn about, understand, and take part in these new growth opportunities across the state. We talked about the requirement of kids having to learn continuously so they can be thoughtful and versatile as they pursue their own careers. As you know, we are currently in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution, and our kindergarten kids who will graduate in 2032 will now need to be constant learners who can be resilient and flexible as they weave in and out of an ever-changing environment.
So if you think about, we've been looking at the future. So that first part that Erica's been talking about, we were looking at the future. Where are we headed? And our second workshop, we asked you, along with other members of the leadership team and parents and families, to think about almost looking back to those deep and powerful learning experiences. So you look to the future to see where we're headed, but let's think about where we're coming from and let that also inform our thoughts. And the results of the workshop were very similar to the same workshop that we did with the teachers and that the workshop we did as a leadership team. We have strong impressions of our experiences, and now we're looking to meld these different thoughts from here, from our teachers, to meld that together and to see and to have it start to build what our beliefs and values are. Wrong one? Oh, I went the wrong way. Okay, so as a result of our conversation at the last meeting, there were some common questions. And so some of you may not be able to read some of those questions, but these are questions that we all hold inside. So these were the ones that really rose to the top. When will actual change happen? How do we translate this into the classrooms? How long is this going to take? Where do we start? How do we make sure we include the social-emotional aspect? So these for us are some of the burning questions around this whole process. Switch.
Simon Sinek talks about the why. He says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. We thought long and deep about that at the leadership team level. We wondered what that would look like. So why do we do what we do? What is our why? This graphic is the simplest way that we could put together our why. Meeting the needs of all learners. Why we do what we do. Surrounded by solid core values and beliefs with kind of an intertwined reimagination of how we create schools and schooling opportunities for kids, both in and outside of the classrooms. How we make things more authentic, how we integrate student agency, how we work with teachers to give them agency in the things that are happening within their classrooms. So meeting the needs of all of our learners has been driving, and it continues to drive, our conversations at the leadership level. Which leads us into the strategic blueprint. Our initial objective centers around the why. And as you can see, we've highlighted define. We want to define our shared beliefs about learning, to develop our mission and vision. This is the core and the foundation of our next few years.
Okay, so when you see that overarching definition about our beliefs, that has to happen before we can do the other steps of our strategic plan. And the way we are showing you this graphic is to indicate that these following three objectives will be concurrent. So we'll be working on aligning our professional practices at the same time as we're learning to innovate and to really reshape and redesign the thinking, at the same time as we're bringing in the community to be partners, making sure that all the stakeholders of Hamilton-Wenham School District are involved in establishing all of this. Oh, yeah, I'm still on. Okay. And I think the important thing to know is it's one of those things. It's not a linear process. It's not like we check each one off. It's recursive, and we'll keep going back to these, and we'll keep evolving. Our beliefs will evolve, our practices will evolve, and so it will be an iterative process. All right, so at this point, we invite you, back to there. We invite you, to go to, we have the 3 groups. We have our elementary group, right here. We have our middle school group, Craig and myself, and we have Mr. Tracy and Mr. Menegoni here at the group closest to your table. Have there been any decisions about who will be joining which group?
Can I ask a process question first?
Yeah.
So what exactly is going to happen there? It looks like you're dividing us up into groups.
Okay. This process is where you will have the opportunity, as Dr. Kuchenberger was saying, to do a quick visit with each of the levels to talk about our school improvement plans. So you'll have a chance to start with the elementary perhaps, and they'll go through their school improvement plan and indicate how it is aligned with our district.
And then we'll come back here and we'll ask questions.
Yes. So it'll be a little bit of both. So you'll have a chance. What we're trying to do is move away from the standard presentation. So you'll be able to have kind of a back and forth dialogue with the principals about the school improvement goals. We will come back together, and Craig and Jen will do like a culmination of what we just covered, and then there will be an opportunity for questions at the end as well.
So my question is, how is Mahala going to gather the minutes of our deliberations if they're happening in 3 different places?
So the intent wasn't necessarily for it to be scripted, but rather just to capture what the goals are at each of the schools. And we can certainly record the questions within each group if that's helpful.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, like, if this is a meeting of the school committee, then the deliberations of all these groups need to be able to be heard by all the people. So if this is a meeting of the school committee, then that's the requirement of the law. If this is not a meeting of the school committee and it's something else, then it should be designed and posted that way. So I guess that's what I wanted to understand.
Sure.
Well,
Okay.
it's an open meeting. I don't think
Right,
at any point does,
but no person would be able to hear all the deliberations if they're happening at 3 different places.
Right. So we can adjust the plan if that would be better, if that would be preferred.
Trying
and
to
we
make
can
sure
just
that
do.
we meet the requirement of the law.
Sure.
And that we get done what we need to get done.
Sure. So we could have each of the phase levels present sort of their conversation with folks sitting here at the dais. I think a little bit will be lost in that because it was really meant to be much more interactive. But I trust that the principals will be able to accommodate that if that's better.
Just, if it's not a meeting, then that's fine. If it's a meeting, then we need to, so is it a meeting or is it not a meeting?
oh,
It's a meeting.
It's a meeting, okay. Well then I think we could hear them individually, but we cannot deliberate and ask questions separately.
So could we still go through and do it the way it was intended and just capture questions as you, and ask the questions at the end?
Yeah,
Would that
yeah,
be
I
a better way to
think
do it?
that's okay. It's a disadvantage to the people watching at home will not be able to hear any of the information that these people are providing. So. Right. Right. Yeah, so there should be somebody recording at each table or something. I don't know. I didn't understand that this was, I would have brought it up if I had understood what this was sooner.
Sure.
Sorry.
well, I mean, I also don't think that the viewing audience, that it's provided as a courtesy. They don't necessarily need to hear everything going on.
No, they do not, but the people
No.
in the room do.
So I believe if this has been a workshop like every other one has been, that they'll all be included
Yeah.
within.
Right, but I won't be able to hear whatever's going on at every table.
Well, I
Right.
think we're switching for every
So.
table, correct?
As a group?
It's 3 separate groups, but.
Right, so
Yeah.
person in Group A won't be able to know what's discussed in Group B and what's discussed in Group C. So,
But
that's
should,
fine.
should it be the same discussion? I know the questions will change with the audience, but the presentation should be the same for all three, correct?
Yeah, I just don't think we should be discussing anything at the tables because the deliberations are not able to be heard by all the people who are here.
Which is an open meeting
Which
violation.
would be an open
We
meeting
need to-
violation.
It should have been worded differently on the agenda. I agree.
I didn't know.
I didn't know we were having a workshop, and so that makes it different to be for the
So that's fine.
posting.
So we can go individually, which is great, because then you can, yeah.
So just hold questions until the end.
So our intention in this meeting tonight was to help each school committee member learn about our plan. So
Yeah.
our principals will present the plans without question, save your questions, and bring them here, and then we can answer them as a group in front of the audience and on the mic.
Yep.
Okay.
So tonight, we really want to try and help you to learn about what we've been thinking about related to the strategic blueprint and making connections with our school improvement plans. Each of the tables have a number of people that have been involved in the strategic plans, school improvement plans, excuse me, and they'll present kind of the deeper meanings, the benchmarks, and the strategies that they'll use to get to what you have in your packet, which I believe is just the basic goals. So if you'd like, we'd like to have two of you at each table, and we'll switch about every 8 to 10 minutes to the next table, and then we'll all come up here and we can answer questions for the whole.
So for organization, Horgan and Michelle Bailey will start at elementary, and then they'll be joined by Vinny, Christine, Sue, and Maureen from the leadership team. With the middle school, Craig and Liz will lead the school improvement plan discussion. Stacy and David will join them as school committee members, and myself, Kristen, and Alan will join that group. And then the third group will start at the high school, where Eric and Brian will lead the conversation around the high school school improvement plans and making connections to the NEASC self-assessment as well. And Jean Lee and Peter will join them. Thomas, you can also join the high school to start. And Craig, actually Lindsay, Stacy, and Peggy will also join the high school. And we'll have 15 minutes to hear each presentation, and then we'll rotate until you've had a chance to hear all three presentations. And again, if you could just hold your questions till the end, we'll ask them when we come back together. Okay? Ready? Let's go.
I'm coming.
Most of our school improvement plans connect to what we did in the accreditation process and the accreditation process. We have to meet 6 foundational goals surrounded by learning culture, student learning, professional practices, those 6 main areas, 5 areas with 6 goals need to be met fully to be accredited. So during our self-reflection process, we realized that 2 of those areas fall short of that goal, which is fine, we still have 2 years to get there. So we set those ultimately as our priority goals, school-based goals. So we're in this school year. We'll work to develop our curriculum documents, which is one of the points that we believe we've been cited on in 2 years if we don't work on that. Using the current format that we've been using, UBD, by the end of the 2021 school year. Understanding that's the process we use, and the documentation process that we use. Yeah. So this was, as I said, this was identified in our self-reflection as an area that we need to work on for 2020. actually assess us. It's one of the foundational goals that's required. So to do that, it's already been happening. Peggy's been working with our curriculum leaders, we're working with all the teachers to develop a plan of action. So they sort that out, how things are going to go. And then teachers are working on curriculum on planning time, during other opportunities that we available, time on Wednesdays, or in some cases, summertime, where we have teachers come together and think through all the new curriculum. And then some of those benchmarks that we look to meet will certainly be increasing the completed curriculum documents. We can track them in spreadsheets of where each course is in the spreadsheet. We'll track that over the next 2 years to make sure we get the final completion. And we have found plenty of time at the high school specifically for, we have 90 minutes a week that's built into the schedule, so teachers take advantage of that number. Right curriculum, they can actually do assessments, they can work on assessments together, they can look at student work. So in the Wednesday days, I mean, there's never enough time, as you know, you're a teacher. I've talked to all of our curriculum leaders, Penny's been pushing as hard as I can be. Sometimes, it's a never-ending task. It's never really done. So even if we get to that done point, we're not done. We need to revise, and the best example is social studies. Social studies are suddenly flipped on its head by the state, and now they're thinking of testing kids in social studies, and they want to, they change the standards and move forward with the changes there. It's going to be that's going to be a long battle. Science did it to us last year. The same thing. We had to go back and review and look at some of the standards of the work that was already done the previous year. So it seems to constantly keep coming back to go back and check it again, go back and adjust it. Yes, never. And then the second goal is to develop a shared set of values and beliefs, which is again a requirement, a foundational requirement of the accreditation process, which fortunately we're doing at the district level. So that helps us to really get everybody involved, community, go out through the process over time. The process will involve teachers, students, parents, community members, and really to get that again together by the time we get to 2021. I look at it as a two-step process. This year we're working on core beliefs and values, trying to get that in place, and then the following year we need to work on our approach to the graduate, which we have done a lot of work on previously, but now we just need to clarify it and make it much more public, and then figure out a way to measure that requirement to, once you have approach to the graduates, what our graduates will look like, you have to be able to show how we're measuring. So that will take some time. Doing great. All right. Almost, right? I'll put them to work, so don't worry. Third goal for us is to work on safety protocols. The outside goals is
Jackson.
Funny thing is,
So year two, we're excited, and we're hoping to implement, we will implement some of our matrix and our students by
so I've done the training in other districts. Yeah, so we'll be training the first group of kids on December 18th. You don't know that, you don't know. The second group will come back from vacation. High school kids, we can give them this is how we want you to sit. We don't want you to sit at home. So where we develop those as we go. And there are a lot of things out there now. We've taken that, and I think kids are going to ship everyone, when they go to college. There's two committees going right now. One committee to develop solid evaluation plans. The second committee is working on communication parts. Once we get out, we get to see what happens. Then how do you get feedback from the parents? How do you go through that? So all those things. Who's blocking the roads? How are we going to move buses? How long will it take the buses? So those are all the things that we're doing. Yeah, so part of the reunification plan is the not only unifying the parents, but also unifying the back into the school culture. So we're working with counselors where necessary, people, personnel available on ground, working for that, professionals. We have access to the STARS team, which helps us to most unusual emergency response vehicles imagine, but also people. So we, as a member of the STARS, so as a member of the STARS, we can call them and send us counselors. I think I called out twice this week. The program works, so we can take advantage of that. Go for it.
Or has to do with absenteeism. Your definition of that. 10% or more of okay. So our goal, it's kind of interesting, because it's a very common number, is to
caveat is the state sets our number at 6.6%, and that doesn't differentiate.
Okay, at this time, if you have any questions, please make sure that your reporter's writing them down.
Absences. It's not excused, unexcused, it's not college visits, it's not filming. Absence. Right. I didn't ask. So I'll let you know what else we do every week. Every week we discuss kids who are chronically absent and what's happening. Students start to discuss why they're out. 3 times being absent 5. Start auditing our attendance records and we know how accurately they sometimes kids are not coding, they count against us. Really out in school for a field trip, internship, shadowing. So we got a concerted absence. Right now they are, but my mind is stuff. They're absolutely school day. They're told we want to amend this contract with students who reach have them some consequences, also some supplements. No, it's more
Sure that?
Going counterclockwise? Counterclockwise?
Stacy, was that?
one big crowd rolling around. We're going to jump right in. You'll notice high school level school group plan accreditation. I know we did our self-reflection. We had our collaborative conference visit. Discussions with the class team visited. We identified 3 areas as not ready yet to meet that standard, which we also identified. And those areas are learning culture, which there are 2 elements. One is providing a safe environment, which we met that. The second one is a written document describing core values, beliefs about learning, and our vision of the value. We do want to have those documents as they are required. Under standard 2 of the accreditation foundational elements, we also are currently not at that goal, where the written curriculum and consistent format of courses and all departments across the school. We know where we're at. We track our curriculum development. He does a lot of work with the curriculum leaders at the high school level. We meet with them every Monday. We kind of readjust as they need to. We've thrown a couple of curveballs last year and this year with the change in the science standards and the change in the social studies stuff that's happening this year. It's made us have to back up and start over in some places. And then the third place, which is not a school improvement goal, because we can't control it, is our learning resources. The school site and plan to support the delivery of curriculum programs and services. We felt that it was met the needs of our needs. The committee said no. They didn't feel like it met our. So we didn't develop a goal around that. We don't control that. It's kind of it has to do with fields. It has to do with science and programs. It has to do with classroom furniture and equipment, those types of things that even set the goal. So our first goal is aligned with the accreditation things that we discussed, to work with faculty, staff, students, and parents to develop a shared set of core values and beliefs as required by the accreditation process. We also identified it, but we are fortunate where, as you saw in the strategic plan, we're trying to do this as a district, so that we're kind of all on the same page in our conversations and our decisions and the way we process how kids work through our system. So that will take, that process alone, that goal alone will be a 2-year goal. We're looking at developing the core beliefs and values this school year, by the end of June 2020. And the second piece of it, which is the portrait of the graduate, we have pieces of that in place. We need to revisit it, make it more clear and visible to people, and then we also have to come up with a way to measure it, and that'll be next year, so 2020, 2021, that will be the process for the final visit for so we'll be working with bigger committees, smaller committees, we'll start to involve parents, students, in meetings, lunchtime meetings, after school meetings, and then try to get those core values and beliefs done as a district, but the high school has to do it by the end of the school. The second goal, continue to update our curriculum documents using the UDD format, which we've been doing now for several years. By the end of the 2020-21 school year, again, we have 2 years until the actual visit and they decide on accreditation. We identified this in our self-reflection report as an area of weakness, and we realized it's a required foundation goal and outlined in the accreditation process. So Peggy has been always working with our curriculum people. She meets with them every Monday, process where they're at, where they're going, what they're doing. They're giving time on some Wednesdays, they're giving common time during the school day, so some teachers will work on curriculum there. We'll build it into all-day sessions sometimes, and we'll also use some of that. So when something has to be done really from scratch, we want people to sit focused for a big chunk of time. Teachers we know they need some time to focus. So that generally will happen sometimes. We track our progress on a spreadsheet with where we're at, which is relative, what has to be reviewed, what has to be advanced, some of our others, but we feel confident with the goal that's required by the accreditation process. Third goal. we need to figure out across the board how all we have to evaluate that's just nice. Everything we do, we're working with local housing, working with local churches. Go to goal number 4, facing very hardly all the time. So we want to reduce our unemployment to 6.6% this year. That number is department head goals. That's based on last year. 7.3% last year. Just so you know, last year when all the things better. How do we actually bring about that improvement? Continuing attendance education, some systems, kids on 6. These also provide kids in school learning. We do look at attendance weekly, discuss the care team protocol. We are actively One thing to notice about the goals in high school is our goals are generally centered around the accreditation agencies. This year was our review by the accrediting agency, so we had to do a self-reflection report, which meant that we all had to kind of sit back and answer a million questions and develop a report related to the standards of accreditation. And October, a team came, 4 members of the team, reviewed our work, did their own work in 2 days. It was in classroom, teachers and parents and people. And they gave us some feedback. Felt that it was got on with our reporting. And some of the things that they agree with us on are some of the things that we know we haven't yet, but we have until 2023. So there are 6 foundational elements that we need to meet to be accredited. One of the ones we had issue with is the school has a written document describing its core values and beliefs about learning and the vision of grad. We do not have those documents for specifically high school, but also we don't have documents that are measurable. So what do we believe about learning? What are our core values? And then what do we see as the vision of the grad? We have done work with the vision of the grad over the past few years. That will revisit, and then we'll have to, for this year, between now and the end of the school year, we've set the goal to work with our teachers and to develop our beliefs about learning, set our core values. We're doing that district-wide, so our teachers that would be helpful for everybody to be on the same page. The other area we had some trouble in is having a written curriculum that's consistent format for all courses and all departments across. So we have a curriculum director and curriculum leaders who work constantly. They are constantly updating, upgrading, working with teachers. Teachers are given Wednesday PD time. They have common planning time built into their weeks, 90 minutes a week, that they can use for curriculum work. We often will give them a whole day to get some work done, especially where something's changed dramatically. I was going to say last year the science standard changed, or 2 years ago. This year, social studies, so standards have flipped on their head, so everybody's got to have to start over. So it's a constant, ongoing process that's never really. So we are going to continue to work towards getting everything documented, and the format that we use is the understanding by design. Basically starting at the end and working backwards and trying to figure out how those work for our kids. In the process of this school year, we're going to continue to work on curriculum. It'll be a 2-year process until the team comes. So we'll use everything we can to be able to get curriculum. We'll use summertime, we'll use outside time, we'll use Wednesday time, and other days as we find available to continue to work on curriculum. We track where each document is for each course, as they change through 50%, complete, 75%. So those are the first 2 goals. Go with Brian, goal number 3. Goal number 3 has to do with communication. It's not ideal for every circumstance. There are times when there are a series of protocols that are trying to create the steps that it takes. But as schools travel through the school day, certainly at the school level, here, have that as a school strategy. How to take the schools, but they can focus on what have we done so far? And then the last one is generalization. Exactly. Most of it. But visualization is having students more sensitive. What you just said was, you tell me what I just said. Like I said, it did some and that was so our 6 to 8 teachers, actually our 12 teachers on that in grade level because our students are in grade level. And we agreed on we also actually talk about our students how exactly we're going to we're still doing some contract work with a different than they but we also have a pencil special teacher and have that work
mouse over the other screen, there's two screens.
Wrap up and be gathering your questions in your mind.
You think it's good? She wants to see the sliding. Is that? Good, how's it going?
Wait, do you need this printed edition? Oh, you guys? Mine here. No.
Do you want to ask questions by grade levels? Like have elementary principals at the podium first and then middle
I
and
think
high?
that'd be easier.
They
because we
put
could
down
get
a question, so they could add, they could say, this is a question.
Sure. Okay.
No, I have my own questions.
Oh, but-
I have my own
But
questions.
the question on our group, they wrote down and answered.
Well, you weren't supposed to because of open meeting law, so I didn't do that. So I have questions.
Well, we didn't get an answer.
Yeah, I was waiting till it was here.
Yeah, I gotcha.
She's not gonna make it.
Yeah. At some point, I saw. It was like. It's like 6:45, and I hadn't even gotten to the North Shore Mall.
Oh.
So, I had a feeling I was gonna be a little late.
Like I said, I was actually surprised at how unapparently they put out the
There it is.
whatever it is you
Yeah. That's fun. Hey, how are you? Yeah. Loads of fun.
My daughter is now commuting to Watertown,
So we're going to start with
which isn't as bad
Field
as
all the
Austin.
elementary
but
questions
This is her
and then
third day on her job, and she's like, oh, she's looking to move it to Somerville. So that's,
Yeah. Well, I sometimes wish we were still in Somerville.
as a 23-year-old, she has that option to move to Somerville. You, as
I
a
don't, yeah.
33-year-old, not.
go ahead and get us back to
So-
order.
All right, coming back to the meeting now, we're going to start with the elementary schools and actually have them come up for any questions that the board might have, and just to sort of bring this back into open discussion. So thank you very much for your presentation. It was actually really nice sort of talking or hearing everything in the smaller groups. Sometimes it's just easier to comprehend with a smaller group in a little bit more personable setting. So that being said, I don't know if you guys were collecting any questions or if anyone, how we want to actually handle this.
Open it up to the committee for questions.
Not collect questions. I think maybe people are writing them down if they have any. We're happy to
So,
entertain.
all right, so
The question we had was why focusing on math? The only, do you want to answer that one, or I'll start? The question we had was why we chose math, and it was really around trying to have a narrow focus. We implemented a new math curriculum last year. We saw an implementation dip with our MCAS scores, which was expected. That comes with any new curriculum. Also, having that narrow focus, having everyone kind of working on within the same content area, makes it easier for us to support the teachers and for the teachers to support each other through that process.
And I would just add that one of the things that we're working on across the district is writing smarter goals, which includes making goals that are really specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and rigorous, and then time-bound. And so by really looking, specifically at math, I believe each school will even be able to find areas to become even more specific once they have time to look at their student data deeply with their teachers.
I was curious about the student reflection piece. Is that model in any other districts, or is there examples of it out there in the world?
We're not following any specific example. We're really trying to pave the way with our teachers and think about this in a new and different way. We know research shows that self-reported grades is one of the most effective ways to increase student achievement, so we're kind of basing it on that research, but we're really going to use our teachers and our current math program to think about opportunities for kids to be reflecting, and we'll have to kind of play with some of the data, but we'll also be researching if there's other things out there.
Okay, thank you.
I can add one little bit to that. You know, there is a little bit of self-assessment built into our math program, which is called Investigations 3. So when students learn multiplication, for example, in 3rd grade, they kind of own, like, these are the multiplication facts I know. These are the ones I don't know yet. You know, so you're really putting the onus on the students. So taking that kind of concept of student ownership to kind of a wider base is what we're looking at. But we are doing some small amounts of self-assessment already.
Okay, thank you.
Can we, it's hard to hear you. I don't know if it's this background noise or if the mic isn't actually working, but I don't know if the person back there can check that.
Let's see the speaker.
Okay. Okay.
There's just no speaker.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Are we going to talk about the other ones, or we're just going goal by goal?
All the elementary goals.
Oh.
It's just for
Yeah, so
elementary.
I had a question about the survey. So I now understand that you're not actually taking a survey that's been pre-made, but you're modeling that survey. So when do you anticipate giving it? And how and when will parents be able to see the questions in advance of you actually administering it?
I mean, we're looking to try to do this by February vacation this year. We're really trying to kind of put something together. It will probably be a starting point to see what data we can gather, and then we'll keep working on it.
And is this one of those ones where you have to notify parents that a survey is being given, and if you would like to preview the questions, you can come in?
We can certainly do that. It's pretty, that's not one of the requirements of the
That's not
vocal
one of these
survey
kinds of surveys,
itself. And the vocal survey is administered to 4th, 5th, and then maybe 7th and 8th graders. But we really want to make this accessible for all our students. So we're looking at the 4th grade and 5th grade version and thinking about how do we make this possible for our youngest students who are just learning to read. You know, it's really going to look different for those students, but that's something we do all the time.
I do have a question about the absenteeism portion of it. I guess there'll be a lot of coordination between the elementary school, middle school, and high schools to see if there's a common theme, a common thread, or if there's different reasons.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I was interested in that too, because one of the things mentioned was, is it because it's cheaper? So if it is truly cheaper, maybe we should change the calendar so that people can take advantage of when it's cheaper. So, you know.
Yes, and then also considering what effects does it have for our students if our vacation calendar does not match up with all the other schools in the
Right,
area.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think my questions were all answered.
Thank you very much, elementary principals and staff.
We'll take any questions about the middle school at this time.
We also broke them all down.
Well, the ones that were asked.
The ones that were asked.
So I guess I'll come up because I actually had a few questions on this. The first was sort of wondering why goal 5 wasn't goal 1, but it just seems like it's the overarching goal of the middle school, and for those who don't have access to it, is work with all stakeholders to define shared beliefs about learning, aligning our practice to those beliefs, and innovating to support modern learning. I would really think that would be the main topic, that everything else, sort of falls under that umbrella. And you had a very good answer as to why, but.
Right, so goal 5 was added at the end And that was as we were working through our strategic planning process and getting ready for this presentation, I wanted to make sure that we linked our school improvement goals into that. So it just ended up as number 5, but I do like the idea of it being an overarching lens to look at all of our goals through.
And I would just add that the goals aren't necessarily ranked in any sort of way. A lot of them are interconnected, and we'll be working on them simultaneously.
In regards to Goal 5, it just says work with all stakeholders to define shared beliefs about learning, aligning our practices to those beliefs, innovating to support modern learning. Where do you really see this going? I know it's very vague, but where do you see this going from here?
So I see this as sort of the fundamental, why are we doing what we're doing? And this, again, it ties exactly into the strategic plan. All stakeholders would include the school committee, the teachers, the leadership team, students, parents, community members who don't have students in this district. But we really all need to define a clear, why are we doing this and what are our goals before we can make the big steps that need to be taken to prepare our students for the future. So that's, as far as exact action steps, I'm a little bit tied into this piece. So I don't know that I can outline those specifically for the middle school. It's going to tie into where we go with the district.
Okay.
And I think that you'll find that to be true with the goals at each of the building, or each of the phase levels, is that once we have your approval, then we'll go back and refine timelines and really see how do they all mesh together, and really be able to define when is it that we hope to publish our mission and our vision and our values. Some of that still needs to be defined in terms of the actual timeline for that.
Okay. So we're about to embark on a process where we're going to be having focus groups with the community about what we need in a leader for our district. What question would you want answered in that process that would help to inform you with this number 5 goal?
That's a good question.
Because we can ask it at a focus group or in a survey. So and I know you're on the spot, and that's something that takes deep thinking, but it would be something we would like feedback on.
So my 2-second answer on that one is less about the person and what their beliefs are, but more about the process and how would they engage the community in that journey. What would their strategies be to make this happen?
Okay. Bringing up another one of my questions surrounding Goal 3, excuse me, revising and updating grades 6 to 8 social studies curriculum to reflect updated state frameworks. My question really was, I'm hoping we're not off by that much. My goal for this district would be that our curriculum that we set is rigorous enough that whenever the frameworks change, sure, there's going to be different boxes that we have to check, but we're already basically meeting the majority of those goals. And I'll sort of just throw that.
Sure. So we're actually ahead of the curve of a lot of districts because we have a grade 8 civics curriculum, which is one of the major changes in the frameworks. They are adding a civics action project, which we're developing with our teachers are working to develop. Another one of the sort of shifts is currently we teach ancient civilizations in 6th grade and we teach geography in 7th grade. Our geography course is a bit of a cultural blend already, but the new frameworks really take the 2 grades and blend them together in a more thematic way. So I don't think we're not in any sort of unreachable territory, but it is, I put it on here because it's going to require resources and time and materials for our teachers to get where we need to get this year.
I think too, you can look at it as it's sort of an organizational shift, that we've got the lessons, we've got the skills, we've got the concepts we want kids to be wrestling with, but they just have to be reorganized as well so that it does provide that big picture for each of these civilizations we study.
Going along with goal number 3, I know you're going to, you're revising and updating the grade 6 to 8 social studies curriculum to reflect the updated state frameworks. What about the other studies? I mean, English, math, how do you feel you compare to that? And why that wasn't brought up, or do you feel like you're in line with the new?
So there is always curriculum work going on. We're always refining and improving our work. But when there are major shifts in our curriculum, so this year we had social studies, new frameworks coming out. Last year we introduced a new math curriculum, and a new science curriculum was introduced 2 years ago. So when those major shifts happen, that's when I want to include them in the school improvement plan, because they're going to take a focus of resources and time away from, well, not away, but they will require additional time than our standard curriculum writing and rewriting process. Okay. So that work is absolutely continuing in all curricular areas.
Okay.
Can I ask, what were some of the comments or questions that the parents had with the ALICE training?
So I know that we recorded all of them. I don't know if that's something that can be shared with the school committee, Julie. Yeah. But I don't have access to that right now. But a lot of it had to do with, I would, if memory serves me right, which is a little foggy at the moment, is specific to my student. You know, in this school, I know that this happens. What if this was the scenario? There were a lot of questions that we answered about that.
All right, thank you.
So I asked this over there. So you are talking about this PBIS program and things. So, and my question was, what is going on around anti-bullying? Because that's one of the requirements of the law, is that we should be instructing on bullying prevention in each grade. Yeah. So how is that incorporated in this, or how is anti-bullying being taught at the middle school?
So those are two different things.
Okay.
This particular program is not directed at specifically designed at teaching anti-bullying strategies. What it does do, though, is it promotes the positive behaviors that are preventative. Because the more work we've learned, you know, research tells us the more work we do preventatively, the stronger our culture, the more positively we support our students and emphasize expected behaviors, the frequency will drop off. We're still going to have them, and that definitely happens. But what we do is we have an advisory. So that occurs. We have advisory teams where we have 2 teachers for every team class, and they work together on advisory lessons that talk about communication strategies, because they're going to be to address when students are not communicating appropriately. So in helping to support them by teaching them strategies to face some of these emotional and social challenges that they face. So it complements, it beautifully complements and enhances the work that we do, and just continues the conversation in a more frequent way for our students. But it is not an anti-bullying program.
But we have one that happens during this advisory?
The anti-bullying work with kids happens during advisory, and that's when they get those strategies, those specific strategies on how to work with other students or deal with problematic situations.
How often is advisory?
Monthly. It's a 45-minute lesson, and sometimes it's followed up with later on with the team.
Any other questions?
The last question I had was during our meeting, you brought up that the SRO is a tremendous asset, and I actually asked just how you're going to measure what the SRO is bringing to the school.
Right. I don't know that I have a specific, time. He's, X number of minutes or X number of hours, but I can tell you he's assisted on numerous occasions with families that we have had trouble contacting, with investigating potential threats that might have occurred, with working with both myself and the high school on planning our ALICE training for students. So there are a number of places where he's come in handy, and I'm sure that that's something we can summarize and share with the superintendent.
One of the things our SRO, Kent Richards, has been working on is gathering evidence throughout the school year of different ways he's engaged with students, not just at the middle school and high school, but also at the elementary levels. I know that he's frequently a guest reader in elementary classrooms, and has really spent the majority of the first few months of this year working on building trusted relationships with our students and staff. And we could certainly get some perceptual data from staff members and students about how it feels to have an SRO in the school. But there will be several also sort of just like key benchmarks that have occurred this year with that added support in our schools.
I will add that he recently did a fire safety lesson with our 8th graders while they were doing some Bunsen burner work. So he co-taught with the teacher on fire safety. And he and I took a spin class at the wellness fair. I will say that he didn't stick around, and he was just there for the
You
picture.
outperformed him, is what you're saying.
I don't want to brag.
Is that a metric we're including?
I'm not a very high bar, so I wouldn't. Can I take any more questions for the middle school?
Just for action steps.
Sure.
For the 4 key inclusive practices, will the staff be allowed or be have the option to do professional development to enhance the practices?
Yep. I don't know if you want to. We currently have a support from Landmark Outreach that we use that has done professional development, and I'm not entirely sure if I know the full follow-up plan. I'm going to look to Stacy on that one. If there's.
For a number of years, we've had a relationship with Landmark Outreach, and they've provided consultation, professional development in district. Adam QP, he's with Landmark Outreach, has been our key person. Last year, we did direct professional development at secondary level, and also consultation pre-DAP, post-DAP, and we'll continue with the consultation model. Most of the model this year is going to be in consultation with a high school staff special education member who is a former Landmark teacher who is providing support and consultation to the middle and high school staff regarding language-based practices and practices, and Landmark Outreach is connecting with that person and doing some consultation in that format right now.
Okay, thank you.
Continue the relationship with Landmark.
Great, thank you.
I want to add that many of our teachers have used the inclusive practices as one of their goals so that they can focus on that and improve their practice and see what other teachers are doing and avail themselves of what other professional development might be there for them to deepen their understanding and their use of them in the classroom.
Thank you.
Also something that at the 6 through 12 curriculum leader meetings that Peggy has been helping the curriculum leaders and me develop additional formats and times when we can reinforce those inclusive practices with the broader school community, so with general ed teachers as well as special ed. So Peggy's done a lot of work on that as well.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We'll entertain questions for the high school.
So I guess my question on that was answered. But so this portrait of the graduate is, could you explain that?
Sure. So in accreditation speak, it's really what we believe our student will look like when they leave us, the skills they will have, if you will. So if you remember back to actually these transfer goals that are posted over here, that work has kind of moved forward into some of maybe the foundational pieces of what the portrait of the graduate would be. The transfer goals are very similar in nature, where when we're looking for transfer, when a student graduates, we're looking for them to transfer the skills that we teach them to something else in life, something else in college, in the job world, at home, wherever they were in the community. So that's similar, they're similar things. The portrait of the graduate for the high school, we'll have to be able to measure that. So we'll have to say, you know, if we expect a graduate to have such and such a skill, how will we measure that? How will we report that to families and children?
Okay. So something like, I don't know, is able to write legibly, and then you could base that on MCAS or something like that.
Effective
Okay.
communicator could be an example.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. And so, do you anticipate a need to do any sort of evaluation of the graduation requirements in conjunction with that?
I think we should consistently evaluate the graduation requirements, especially with the speed things are changing.
Right.
If you're looking at the 3 workshops we did and how fast things are changing and some of the opportunities that we could offer kids that we're not currently offering kids, I think it's always good policy to do the two in tandem. If you're looking at what we want our graduates to be, we also want to look pre-K to 12, how they're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had those great discussions, pre-K to 12, over the years where we've been able to meet with different grade levels. We're also doing learning walks at different grade levels so that we can take a high school teacher to an elementary school and see what's happening there and take something back, and vice versa. So we're trying to use all of those tools to help us to develop those formats as we look to that. And again, the portrait of graduate work will probably happen next school year because we need a solid core value and beliefs to be able to kind of set that on, if you will, to move forward.
And so would an analysis of graduation requirements happen during that process or after that process?
It could go either way. I personally would like to have a strong set of core values and beliefs and then move forward to, kind of like the UBD format. What do we want, and then how do we get there?
Yeah.
So working backwards from there. I think it's a smarter move than trying to build it and then have to go rolling back and build it again.
Yeah, okay.
Can you explain the UBD format?
Understanding by design is the process that we use for our curriculum development. Right now we're working on our what we call our stage 3, which is really what's going on in the classroom. Stage 1 is kind of like what are the standards or what are the skills, and then how do you get there is stage 2. But we work again using a backwards design model, trying to say here's where we want a student to be when we get to the end of the class. How do we get there? And the process of understanding by design helps us to organize and make direct connections to the things that are happening in the classroom. Because ultimately, we really want kids to learn these skills or these standards. And now we have to be able to look at that and say, are we doing the right things to be able to meet those requirements of whatever it may be, the state or even of what we believe.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Like I say, goals 1 and 2 were sort of based around what you say in both of them is things that you identified in our self-reflection for the as areas of weakness in the NEASC accreditation. How would you say identifying those things really comes into play with what we've been discussing the past 3 workshops, and how are you going to how are you thinking you'd like to intertwine all of it?
Great question. I think about it a lot. It's really intertwined is the right way to describe it, because several of the discussions that we have are really driving what we're doing at the school level as well. In any of the schools, we're having these same conversations, trying to make those connections much more direct and much more visible to not only teachers and students, but also we want people outside of our schools to understand what we're doing and how we're doing it. So the connections, I think, are consistent and valuable. The curriculum work is always ongoing, always kind of rolling and changing and shifting. It's never done. As much as we say, the goal is to have your curriculum done by this date, it will never be done. Because we're always going back and revising, and I can use one of 100 examples. Go into a social studies class or a math class. Nope, this didn't work. We need to go back. We need to change that. We need to change our documentation. So that type of revision is constantly going on. So then that works into what do we believe about learning, and how does that connect back to our curriculum mapping process, and then how does that connect to our assessment process, and then how does that connect to how we look at student work, and then what we do from there. So it never comes untied. it really stays connected all the way through. And I do think about it a lot because I think it's important for us to be able to explain it to people who don't work in the field or people who are not in our schools.
Well, I think you can ask any elementary math teacher how the sort of outside environment, likes the change in curriculum. They're very afraid of things that they don't know. So I think having open discussions like this is the first stage to really trying to get community involvement and saying, hey, we're looking at a much bigger picture here, and come aboard.
The beauty of these discussions is also the crossover. The 6th grade teacher talking with the 12th grade teacher, the 10th grade teacher talking with the 2nd grade teacher. Those crossovers are valuable, and sometimes we forget about that in our process as we have those discussions along the way. We're like, no big deal, but it really is. Because when you ask a kindergarten teacher to get a child ready for the portrait of the graduate, that's a long way away, but they still have a piece of that picture, if you will.
Right.
So it's important for us to try and say, okay, what piece of the picture do you have in each of those steps?
Now, on the curriculum, I know it's an ongoing process with curriculum. Now, do you notice that our scheduling is also an issue to be able to figure out new classes and new wants with our tight scheduling that we have? I mean, because really the high school's got, I think, difficulty scheduling classes.
The interesting twist in our schedule is if you untwist our schedule and just look at it from periods 1 through 7, we're no different than most high schools. What we have in time and what we have in personnel is what we have. We have the ability to take 54 teachers times 5 classes each and run that many courses. If we want to run 5 more courses, we'll need another teacher. If we want to adjust it, then something else has to give. So I'll give you the best example. In social studies, we rotate courses. So we'll have, real history rotate out, and then other course rotate in the next year. So kids will get that chance over the years to take that course at different points, different intervals, if you will. But we're trying to do it that way so that we can give kids the most opportunity over time, so that we're not also getting stagnant with our course offerings, like, oh, it's the same thing every year. So we're trying to really spread our wings in that area. We've done really well in taking advantage of virtual high school, offering new opportunities like the journalism class, which we've connected to the online newspaper, our new communication and media class, which is now really looking at communications differently, and broadcasting differently. If you've been to New York City, you see people on the street with a microphone, their cell phone, and kind of a selfie stick, and they're doing their newscasts right there on the street as an independent reporter, and we can do that as well. And we can bring those opportunities and show kids the skills, how to do that, how to write well, how to use the cameras well, how to use the equipment, how to edit the materials, and then how to bring that back to writing it out as an article. So we're trying to connect dots that way.
So how can you work enrollment, say if so many kids want one class, and our policies against having too many kids in a class? Because I know there's 2 classes that, when I saw enrollment report, that exceed the amount of students per our policies.
So the reality of how we offer our courses is we schedule based on student selections. So we look at our student selections every spring. We run them across the teachers that we have. We run courses like, programming. Computer programming is a good example. There's never quite enough kids to get there, but there are just enough kids to run it. So we usually use a number around 14, which is something that we just agreed upon with Dr. Harvey a few years back as a good round number. So we start to move out the courses that don't meet that initially. If they don't have 14 students, we start to look at everything else. If we go back to the curriculum leaders and they decide based on the number of kids enrolled in their courses, also with what they want to offer, what we should run. So there will always be courses that we will not run, and there will always be courses that are higher than the 22 or 24 or 25. And generally our theory is if you're an AP class, we would feel more comfortable putting more kids in an AP class than in a CP class. We try and keep our CP classes much lower, usually below 18. And oftentimes our honors and AP classes will be higher. Kids work much more independently, especially at AP level. It's a much more prescribed curriculum, and they're really spending a lot of time, either independently or in groups, working through really mandated problems, if you will, problem sets.
Well, there's two classes which are over our class policy that have 3031, which are both math classes. One is AP and one is Algebra 2.
Yeah.
And that's over our policy. And so I'm just wondering, and then there's a class that didn't run, which is AP History, I personally did not know there was a magic number for including that into the schedule. And is it because it's a scheduling conflict that kids could not take that class because of other classes they had to take too? Just curious, and that's why we couldn't run that class.
So if you look at math, for example, you're going to give something up. If you split your AP calculus class, which has 31 students in half, you're never going to get an exact split. So you might have one with 10 or 11 kids and one with 19 kids or 20 kids. And then you have to look at how much you want to offer your kids. So if we split that class, something else will suffer. So what do you drop? Well, there are required courses in each area that we have to run, and then there are other courses that we don't have to run, and I'll use computer science as the best example. Always a course right around 15 kids that selects it. If we split that course, computer science gets knocked out because it's probably one of the lower courses on the list. And that happens in each of the departments, and that's decisions that department heads make based on a number of factors. Remember now, we have to still stay within the contract of 3 preps for our teachers. So we have to kind of look at that model. Does every teacher have no more than 3 preps? And then balance it out across each of the departments. 7 people, 35 classes. What do we really want to run? Something will always suffer. Something will always get dropped just because of the value, the high value of AP courses. We have probably 68% of our kids, I think, take 1 or more AP classes. So we run a lot of AP classes, but if you start splitting them, you're going to cause 2 effects, kind of that unbalanced class and then also dropping something that other kids might want to take.
So that's a scheduling issue then.
Well, unless we hire more staff.
You'd have to hire more staff.
Right.
You'd have to hire. If you gave me 5 more teachers, I could run all of the classes in the program of studies.
Oh, then we need to add rooms too.
Right. I mean, the things that have changed that have benefited us as our enrollment has shrunk over the past, I've been there for 7 years, it's dropped from 685 to 548 right now. And those numbers have somewhat benefited us, but along the way, we've also lost teachers. So we always kind of have to meet that, the contract requirements of teachers, the number of classes that each teacher can teach, and not all of them teach full time, so they don't all teach 5 classes. And then how we balance that across all of the selections those 548 kids make times 7. Sometimes times 8, because some kids will take an 8th class either through virtual high school. And that's where we pick up the slack for kids who may want something different or may not fit into a particular class they want. There's always a conflict, and kids have to make choices. I've been doing this my 23rd year as a school administrator, and every time we run the schedule, we've always had those types of conflicts. You can't meet all the needs unless you have more staff and more opportunity. Even if you had more scheduling time, you still need more staff to fill those holes.
Now, how many classes do the department heads teach?
Currently, they teach 2. And most of them teach at the high school, except for Kevin Sano. She teaches at the middle school. She's a foreign language teacher. The rest of them teach at the high school.
So one thing you mentioned in the NEASC thing was that they were looking at learning resources. And then, to me, the things you listed off were things like the building, the facilities, and the furniture, the labs. So there isn't a goal to address that, which you stated. So my question is, what will that mean in the report? What will that look like? What sorts of things should we be doing to plan around that?
So there are 5 foundational goals, 6 standards within those foundational goals, 6 elements, if you will. One of those elements is about how the building works for teaching and learning. We as a group, and I mean we, the teachers and everybody that wrote that report, felt like, yes, we can make it work with what we have. Of course they will, because they do that every day, even when they need.
Right.
But the committee that came in felt like that wasn't true, based on a number of things, a number of the professional reports that we had done, some of the evaluations that we had done by architects, or some of the work that's been done with the field planning, some of the work that was done with the library planning a couple years back. So in looking at all that and then looking at some of the state minimums, for example, when you look at a science lab should be about approximately 1,450 square feet. We're probably, you know, maybe a little over half that, 60% of that in our classroom. So equipment-wise, when you start looking at types of equipment that you have available for kids, we felt short, but most of it had to do with the facility and building things that I as a principal don't have a lot of control of, but certainly I will, once I get the final report, present that to the group and make sure everybody's clear on what the report says, because I'm not, like, I don't have it to release yet, so.
And that's in 2021? Is that when the report's expected?
So they set the standard for the next visiting team, which will be in the fall of 2021. They will come in with a 10-member team and reevaluate our progress on the goals that we set.
Yep.
And from there, they'll make a decision on our accreditation.
And is that usually a long process, or does that usually happen within a short time frame after the visit?
So similar to the collaborative conference, they'll come and visit instead of a 2-day period, it'll be a 4-day period, Sunday to Wednesday. They'll create a report, and usually within 2 or 3 months, you get the final report with several recommendations. And they could, you know, give you accreditation, put you on warning for a particular area, you know, not give you accreditation, which in my career, I've never seen that happen. They're always very willing to work with schools, but they'll definitely highlight the work that we need to do.
Okay. And then we'll have to create a 2-year and a 5-year plan.
Correct.
To meet those
And
recommendations.
report back in intervals. They designate intervals for us to report back. If we got there and our our portrait of the graduate wasn't done, they would give us time and say, it's got to report back to us by this date, and let us know the progress that you made. So.
Okay, thank you.
This NEASC a 7-year cycle?
10.
10? Thank you very much.
And the last time we've been evaluated was 2006. They've been kind of on hold, reevaluating and redeveloping their new goals. So we're under the new system. So in 2 years, they'll be here and they'll assess the goals that we set this year, the goals that we'll set next year in conjunction with our final evaluation.
Great. So at this point, what are we looking at for next steps?
So we have a little closing for you, and then the plan will be for us to submit to you the school improvement plans with their actions and benchmarks all fleshed out, and the strategic blueprint for your approval for one of our January meetings. So we're not asking you to take any action tonight. We really just wanted to give you this information so you'd have time to think deeply about it, and then give you another chance for clarifying questions before we ask for your vote of approval. So at this time, if Jen and Craig could head to the podium, they'll close out our conversation.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Alan, could you assist?
Can I go use arrows? There we go. That's all I need.
There you go.
All right. So I'm going to bring you back to the strategic blueprint.
Good work, Alan.
The four key pieces to this are defining our shared beliefs about learning to develop our mission and vision. It's a short sentence, but that is a tremendous amount of deep and powerful work right there. That's going to be messy. It's going to take time. And we don't have all of the key action steps laid out concretely right now. Strategic objective 4, engaging the community as partners in achieving this mission. So one of the pieces that I've been working on is how do we fully engage our community in this conversation, since not everyone in the community is a professional educator. Not everybody has been in all of these workshops. They're not familiar with all these resources. And how do they connect all of the dots? You know, a lot of conversations I've been having with staff and other people as well is, well, didn't we do that? Or how does this relate to what we did last year? So part of the work that I've started, and this is an ongoing and evolving process, is a timeline of the work that we've been doing here. So this is open to the public. I've created a timeline, starts at the bottom and works its way up. But that we have embarked on an extended exploration of deep and powerful learning, and to best help our students be prepared for an ever-changing world. However we want to wordsmith our mission and vision, I think that's a fairly agreeable goal for everyone. And it scrolls down, and it goes all the way back to work that we were doing in 2003. So in 2003, we had Tony Wagner join us as an opening speaker. We talked about passion and play in the school systems. We moved up into 2004, where we, as a leadership team and as a faculty, created this 21st century, sorry, I can't see it on the computer, a picture of the graduate work. 13 and 14. My apologies. It did seem really far back.
Just felt like it's been that long.
I didn't go that far back. So the portrait of a graduate, or a picture of a graduate's over there. This is where we asked all of our faculty, what do we want our students to be able to know and do when they graduate high school? And you can see problem solving, critical thinking, and a number of other key terms came up as repetitive and common themes. We built from some of that work, we worked as a district to develop transfer goals. These over here are overarching transfer goals. I'm going to step out here. And, all graduates of the district will be able to independently use their learning to demonstrate character, exhibit resilience, communicate and collaborate, problem solve and think critically, and lead locally and globally. Through that work, we also developed department and grade level transfer goals. So in 6th grade English, we want our students to be able to know and do independently this level of work. In 3rd grade math, in 9th grade science. So all of those documents exist. They're on the district website. But to find all of these individual pieces is complicated and time consuming. And I know because I did it. And it took me a while to really put it all together. And if we really want to engage our community in a conversation, they're not going to want to spend an hour looking through 19 levels of web pages to be able to find that information. So, I included in here when we had, sorry, I really wish I could see it on the screen there. But we had Most Likely to Succeed. They came and we watched the film as a community, and we had a workshop with them. We talked about what is deep and powerful learning, and there's a number of links here. The summer faculty book groups, these just link to the books themselves, but you can see some of the work that we've been doing. And then I've linked in here all of the workshops that we've done as a school committee. So you can get to the resources themselves, you can get to the HWCAM footage if you're interested in pursuing it that way. What is Learning is an 8-week course that Eric and Jen are running for faculty right now to really dive into this in a little deeper fashion. So there is a lot of resources here, and the goal of this is to tell our story, to say this is the journey we're on, this is where are we going, where are we now, and most importantly, to get to the why are we doing what we're doing. So I'm going to continue to update this. If people have feedback or input or thoughts or things that they think should be added, let me know. I'm happy to put them on there. The logo here, I added this. This is a link to district web pages and Twitter accounts and Instagram accounts. So if you're a parent, you could click on that and find out ways to learn about our district as well as become involved. So the goal here is to help tell our story and spread, get people involved in the conversation. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen. You probably can maybe escape. Or you might need to click on another web page.
So this fall, we've talked with you about what is the future we want to create for our school district. We've shared the pressure that we all feel to prepare our students for the future. It's clear that our students must be prepared to continually learn and relearn so they can keep up with the high-speed, changing global economy and society. We've explored with you the question, what is learning? We want to make sure that we all hold the same beliefs about learning and can make aligned decisions. We believe that if we lay the groundwork now as an entire community to establish our core beliefs, not a singular set of beliefs that one individual writes, or something that's generic that's passed down from year to year without analysis or reflection. We really want to take time as a community to think about what is the Hamilton-Wenham School District? What do we stand for? I've been in this school district for this is my 14th year. I'm sure some of you have been here that long, but all of this work I've been part of. But how does it come together? It's not about a single leader. It's not about a single personality. It's about a community and a set of beliefs that withstand time. That's what we really want to come together to establish. Because then if we do that, all of our decisions are aligned. They're strengthened. We look at things through one lens, and we're able to work together and really, really amplify our work. So our strategic objectives, our work to a reimagined school, and our goals are designed to take time. Time that is essential to create that shared foundation of beliefs that are clear to everyone in our community. Time that will allow us to make decisions through that same lens, aligning and amplifying our work. Time that allows for a vision that is built from the ground up, inclusive of students, families, community members, and educators. Our blueprint was designed last year with feedback from every teacher across the district. It's intended to be a messy, generative process that involves all of us. We really want to thank you for all the time you've given us and shared with us this fall. And as you reflect on our goals and the strategic blueprint, we welcome your feedback. We welcome you to come see what learning looks like today in our schools. We want you to help to continue to build our answer to the question, what is the future of learning in the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, leadership team.
Yeah, I just want to really thank you guys for really an informative past couple of months and really enjoyable way of going through some big, big ideas. It really gives us a lot to think about on both ends of this table. So thank you for all your hard work. So we all set? We gonna move on? All right, so we're gonna move on. You guys can all go home. Thank you for putting in the extended day. I appreciate it. Up next on the agenda, we're gonna have Danielle Petrucci talk about the wellness fair. So did you want to do it?
Michelle Horgan.
Excuse me?
He's doing one next time. I don't know if Michelle wanted to talk about why she invited her. Do you want to?
Did you want to introduce? Did you ask Michelle?
Danielle.
Yes,
Danielle?
today.
Do you want it? I don't know. I guess it's a no.
I'd like to thank Danielle Bertucci for coming tonight to present or rather to inform the school committee of the work she did this fall with the Wellness Policy Subcommittee and what she brought to the district. She did a great job, and thank you, and she's here to present. Thank you.
Actually, I would like to connect this, but is it, does it have AirPlay?
I'd like to watch
Okay, I just
Watchmen.
don't know which.
Can I get a vote? Watchmen. If I get a vote?
That's what I was looking for.
It's supposed to be excellent.
I don't know. I don't think so. No, I looked. There's kind of place you run in. It would make me. If I was running it, never mind. One second.
All right. Thanks again, Michelle, for inviting me here, and thank you to the school committee for having me. So the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District Wellness Advisory Committee organized its first biennial wellness fair on Saturday, October 5th, 2019 this year. As I was already introduced, but I'm Danielle Petrucci. I'm the K-12 Wellness Curriculum Coordinator, and I'm also the chair of the Wellness Committee. And I have been for the last 3 years. Catherine Donovan, who is the Director of Nutrition Services, she's the co-chair of the committee, and she wanted to join us, but she was unable to come tonight. But I do have gifts from Catherine to give at the end of my presentation. So I wanted to come talk to you about the Wellness Fair and share how great it was. Before we even get there, I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of the purpose of the Wellness Committee, who we are and what we do. So over the last 3 years, we've transformed the Wellness Committee, which first started with 4 members, and now we have 12 plus very dedicated members that include teachers, staff, administrators, parents, school committee members, and community members. We decided that the 3 required meetings per year wasn't enough, so we meet once a month because we have many goals that we want to achieve over the next 5 years or so and beyond that. And one of our first goals when we first came together 3 years ago was to create a mission statement so that we could help everyone understand our purpose. We also created a website that is available on the district website. So our mission is, the mission of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District Wellness Advisory Committee is to provide a whole school, whole community, whole child approach to physical, mental, social, and emotional health, promoting innovative learning and skill development as the foundation for academic success and personal achievement, thereby instilling a supportive and health-literate climate for all students, teachers, staff, and community. We wanted to make sure it was pretty comprehensive, so it's pretty long. But if you look to the right, this is an image created by the ASCD and the CDC of the whole school, whole community, whole child approach to education. And as you notice in the center, you have our students. And according to the ASCD and the CDC, there are 5 tenets to students' academic success. And those 5 tenets are being healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged. The success of these 5 tenets rely on a coordinated approach to review policy, process, and practices, which every 2 years, the Wellness Advisory Committee reviews our wellness policy, and we appreciate your support on our recent wellness policy. But it's recommended that the services that focus on the same goal, which are student health outcomes, work together to ensure student success. And these include what is in the blue in this image. So health education, physical education, nutrition services, health services, or nurses, social emotional climate, employee wellness, community involvement, and to name, there's a few more up there. But we can't do this alone as a silo in our school district. We really need to work with the community as well to increase our student health outcomes. And this is why the Wellness Advisory Committee decided to organize a wellness fair for the students, for the community, for our faculty, for the school. So I first wanted to give you an overview of the wellness fair. It was located at Miles River Middle School, and we decided to choose Miles River because of the organization of the facilities. So this was a map of the fair for the day, and when attendees entered the school, they were approached outside by a farm stand. We had 3 local farms doing activities as they entered. We had pumpkin painting and then just activities to put together little fall arts and crafts. And then when attendees entered the school building, they were greeted by our extraordinary student volunteers who handed them a copy of this map, directing them to where our exhibitors were. And they also ran our raffle table, which was located at the front entrance. And if you look at going up the 2nd floor, we had a parent speaker series throughout the day, and I'm going to get more detailed about what everything looked like in the following slides. The multi-purpose room was our exhibit hall, where we had 27 exhibitors, and the gymnasium was used for fitness activities and team building activities. And if you look at the yellow exiting outside, we actually had the National Guard brought a 100 by 60 foot inflatable boot camp, which was so much fun. So we had many scheduled events throughout the day. The parent speaker series, we had 3 speakers attend throughout the day, and they spoke on topics such as suicide prevention, vaping, tobacco, and marijuana and the effects on our students, and what the whole child education really looks like and how we can all work together to increase student health outcomes. In the gymnasium, we also had nonstop fitness classes throughout the day. We had a yoga class, dance and fitness, cycling, which was actually taught by our middle school Spanish teacher, Catherine Frost, rock climbing, which was managed by our middle and high school wellness teachers, and again, National Guard with the boot camp fitness in the back softball fields. In the exhibit hall and outside, we had the total of 31 exhibitors that attended our wellness fair, and it included both departments from our school district and many wellness-focused businesses in the local community of Hamilton, Wenham, Beverly, even Topsfield, came by to inform our students, our staff, and our parents. So I'll give you a minute to look at the list. So if you weren't able to attend, we have a few pictures here of our speakers, the inflatable boot camp, some of our exhibitors, spinning, the rock climbing, and the dancing that went on throughout the day. It was a really fun day, as you can tell. And so we were really happy with the outcomes overall for the wellness fair. We felt that we made many new connections to community resources. Attendees increased their knowledge about what's actually happening in the schools and resources outside of the school for their health, wellness, self-care, and so much more. We brought awareness to the community about what we're all doing to help improve student health and continue improving it. And it was just a really good opportunity for the school and the community to collaborate. And we felt that many of our exhibitors started thinking differently about how they could collaborate to work with the schools as well. And there were lots of great connections made and great conversations. The Wellness Committee at our October meeting, we thought about, okay, well, what worked and what didn't work, thinking about our next wellness fair in 2 years. And we decided that early October probably wasn't the best date. It worked out really well on our school calendar. There was nothing scheduled. It was a clear Saturday. We were like, yes, perfect date. And then we realized as we were planning it and everything was already finalized, it was a day that there was flag football in town. There was also SATs that day, soccer, hockey, you name it. Whatever sport was played on that day. But we did have a really good outcome. It just wasn't what we were hoping it to be and what we hoped it to be in 2 years. So we decided that we're probably going to change the date to early November because we realized that's in between the sports and there wasn't much going on in the town that day and there was no SATs. We also decided that 3 speakers, we were just trying it out. Maybe that was too much because we had so much going on that maybe we'll just have 1 hot topic speaker. And we'll also look for feedback from the community and our students as to what topic they would like the speaker to be. We'd like it at the same location. We thought Miles River worked really well with the facilities. Everything was right there. You just kind of flowed into one room to the next, to the outside. And it's a really good location. And we thought that maybe we could increase student participation with maybe adding a career connection to it. It could be being an entrepreneur or working in the health and wellness industry. And we had chiropractors there, people who opened up their own fitness studios, yoga studios, and they're all very successful. And they have a passion for helping people. So we just thought that was a really good career connection to create some sort of assignment to bring students in and learn more about career connections. And we wanted to just thank everyone who attended, but also I would really like to especially thank the Wellness Committee members who spent countless hours helping to plan this. We'd like to thank the student volunteers who were instrumental on really making the day successful on the day of the Wellness Fair. I'd like to thank the teachers, exhibitors, speakers, administrators, all who volunteered their Saturdays. You spent the whole entire day there helping out to help the community thrive. And we'd like to thank the school committee for your support for having the Wellness Fair and all the support that you've given us throughout the last 3 years and all our goals and our endeavors that we've done. So I do have gifts for you. I don't know if that's illegal, but
Is it over $50?
But this is
Is it under or over $50?
It's under $1, I think. But this is from Catherine Donovan. So she actually, in the elementary and middle schools, they're always doing really fun things in the cafeterias, and they served lunch on these Frisbees, and it was a success. No one got hurt. No one used it during lunch. Very well behaved, positive behavior reinforcement. And each school committee member can get one, and if you are located in the school, we will get you one because they only have 5. But if you have any questions, I will take them about the Wellness Fair or anything to do with the Wellness Committee, really.
No, I just want to thank you, Danielle. This was a real labor of love for you and the committee, and I know you pointed out that the teachers and administrators that were there, that speaks volumes about our community and our teachers and our school districts. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask one question?
Yes.
Why 2 years from now?
Actually, we decided to do it opposite of STEM night. STEM night is a biennial as well, so it's every 2 years. So next school year would be a STEM night event, and then the following year we'll have our Wellness Fair event, just so people maybe easy to remember that way. I'm not sure.
Great, thank you for everything.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Daniel.
Are you going to throw them?
Yeah, I was thinking of doing that, but if you ask my husband, no way. The worst gamer.
Thank you.
Here you go, you're welcome.
Thank you.
She wanted to just give,
Oh, yeah.
if you want it, sorry. No, I'm not. Yeah, this is actually, you wanted to
sorry.
pass down. I thought it was one many. Here you go. Oh, no.
I got one, don't worry.
Oh, this is a one big document?
Get one on Friday.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you.
I'm just sure we'll be there.
If you'd like to send a meeting, our meeting tomorrow, 7 a.m.
Friday, tomorrow or Friday?
Oh, tomorrow.
It's tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow, sorry.
Perfect.
Well, good thing we're here.
You don't think so that's not regulation. That they won't throw a non-regulation.
Thank you so much, Danielle.
Thanks a lot. Thanks
Have a
for
great
having
night.
me.
All right. Up next, you have the audit firm quotes timeline. I guess that would be you.
So it's more just an update on the request for quotes. This week I sent out, did a little research on the audit firms around us and picked the 3 kind of biggest games in town and sent out a request for quotes back from them. The deadline for it, I believe, is the week before you guys vote on the tentative budget, so it will be in time for that. The 3 firms were Clifton, Larson, Allen, and that is just one firm. The audit firms love to have multiple names on it, but that was one. Powers and Sullivan, who we currently have, and Melanson and Heath, who we had, I believe, 7 years ago. So we should have it in time for the tentative budget.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Thanks a lot, Vinny.
Sure. The next item up was the enrollment update, and I did just get some clarification on the high school numbers if you're looking at the numbers that were in the agenda. But as you know, each month we connect with the schools to verify our enrollment. Just bear with me one second while I pull the numbers up. So at the high school last month, we had a total of 550 students, and that is what our enrollment has been looking like across the since the beginning of the school year. But the grades are shifting. The grade numbers are shifted a little bit, and I will update them for you in the spreadsheet. But the high school at grade 12, we have 137 seniors, 144 juniors, 135 students in grade 10, and then 134 freshmen. So that will get updated. And then you can see that our enrollment stays pretty consistent month to month. We have 416 middle schoolers, 257 students at Bucher, 276 students at Cutler, and 340 students at Winthrop. And that does include the addition of our third preschool classroom, which we just brought on in the past month or so. Also, what was provided to you via email was an analysis of our average class sizes. And so I won't read that all to you, but at the elementaries, we are trending an average range from 19 to 24, in some cases 25 kids in a class. And it's the same at the middle school level. We have some class sizes up to 25, and most of them are hovering around the 20 students per class.
Did you give us a copy of that? Is that, because I only saw the high school.
It's all, there's tabs on the bottom of the Excel spreadsheet.
Oops, okay. There we go, sorry.
That's okay. And I apologize for the delay in getting that to you. It wasn't with your packet on Friday, but that was really just, we were trying to find the best way to extract all the class by class, course by course data for you. And so the last thing under my report, actually, I'll just say two things. At the last meeting, you charged us with two tasks. One, giving you the courses offered versus enrolled report, and we're working on getting that to you by the end of the week. And we also drafted a response to the community member who expressed concern about the field situation. So I'll be sharing that with you tomorrow for your review before we send it out. And lastly, just a moment of recognition to remind everyone that our Miles River Middle School students' work will be on display at the Wenham Museum. Several students are featured, so it's an exciting opportunity to go and see some of our youngest artists on display.
Question about the enrollment for the high school. There's two classes that are really large, and I think it's really, I can't remember what our exact policy states, but the numbers are very high for those classes. I had parents complain to me about the classes being in excess of too many kids, and it wasn't a CP. Yes, one was an AP class, AP
Calculus.
AP Calculus has 31, and the Algebra 2 has 30, and which is above our policy that we have. And I just think we need to really stay within our policy or try and figure out what to do, because I think there is some scheduling conflicts as far as it's a very tight, it's hard to get classes at the high school, and we might want to look at that at some point, not saying us as a school committee, but it should be possibly looked at, because I know, just knowing what my kids had, they've had a hard time. They get their 7th choice, or they get classes they don't even pick and are stuck with those classes because that's all their choices. And so it's made it hard, as well as trying to get into AP classes. There is no broad spectrum. Kids have to choose between 2 AP classes. And I've had in past people complaining that their child had to make a decision which AP class to take. And it may not, people are saying that they're going away, but colleges, it's not going away when they're looking at college applications. AP is important. And so I think that's something important that we need to look at in the future or now.
Yeah, this is a good time to have the discussion, because it really does, if we want to offer more sections, it requires more staff. And so that having that conversation during the budget time is perfect.
Yeah. And I don't know, I was just maybe department heads maybe have to teach another class too, because that's awfully low. I don't know what our exact contract is, but I know
it's
2.
for 2.
4. No, it's
What?
not.
It's not 2, it's 3. 4. And they're only teaching 2, and so maybe they can each add 2 classes, because I know it's low compared to some of school districts around, their department heads get paid less stipend, and they also teach 4 classes at surrounding schools as a department head. So it's just maybe something to think about, that maybe the AP can be taught by a department head, maybe, if they're only teaching 2.
Is it possible we could put any more discussion on that? Because it really came in sort of late. Personally, I haven't even seen the report yet, so.
Sure, we can add it to the next agenda.
Or, yeah, okay.
The student enrollment?
That is what that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the class size report, either one. The enrollment was there Friday, or at least
Yeah,
it was,
just
I
the
looked
class
at it at the
size.
weekend.
It was
but-
just the class size.
Yeah. So Dorothy Presser is here. Do we want to move on to that?
Yeah.
So Dorothy Presser is here for 2 purposes. One is going to be quite long, and there's going to be several decisions that need to be made about, so we've engaged Dorothy Presser. Vinny has contacted and put together, has the contract actually been signed? Vinny, I guess I should have asked you that.
Dave signed it.
So we're in the process
have it
of
with
getting
me,
that
but-
all done. Dorothy provided us some documents for this meeting. However, one of the timelines is different. So this is going to be version 1, maybe? Yep. Okay. So distribute these to replace the original version 1.
Thank you, Michelle.
Oh, so you ready? Okay, good evening. So what I have tonight, as we get started on the process of the superintendent search, is a number of decisions that I'd like to lead you through to get us started on the process. I sent a bunch of materials. Hopefully you had a chance to look through them and give them a little thought, so we can be ready to discuss them. The first item that we need to make sure we're all in line on is the timeline for the search. I did a couple of timelines. They both have their pluses and minuses. One had me worrying more about winter weather, not knowing the storm was coming. And the other, so it kind of pushed things, so we had a little bit more time if weather gets in the way of the timeline. The second gives a little bit, or the, make sure I'm telling you the right thing. So that's actually labeled as version 1, which has the shorter time frame up front to get the focus groups done, to get the material done that gets you to that advertising the position. Version 2 gives you a little more breathing room at the beginning, and still gets you, both of them still get you to the end of that March 25th deadline, or a little bit ahead of that March 25th deadline that you had in the RFP to have made a decision and to end the search. So it's really, I mean, there's, as I say, there's pluses and minuses to both timelines. Could actually change things on either of them to fit what seems to work. They both take into account both the winter vacation and the February vacation. So really, I guess I'll open it up and see if you have any comments about which you prefer.
I think we're highly ambitious to be conducting the focus groups next week.
Okay.
I just think that version is very ambitious.
So just so far as the focus groups are concerned, that's something that the consultant does that I would do. Your presence is not at all required. And in fact, very often, it's better if the school committee lets the consultant do that. So that's really my work to get done. So if they can get scheduled, there's no block to doing that.
No, my concern is that people have a lot of things going on right now, and to all of a sudden say, hey, tomorrow or next week, can you come to this thing?
Yep.
It takes a lot to organize a babysitter or organize your time or reschedule. And so I just think that might be.
I think there's a
pushing
lot
it.
going on.
But-
I don't know if you've, in the past, have done it during that time frame in December, but I think just parents I've heard from, they are just really over capacity right now. So I'm not sure if you've done it and had enough people respond or.
So to be very honest, generally with the advent of SurveyMonkey and generally the survey has much better response than the focus groups. And the survey is at your convenience, doesn't take as long as committing to going out to a meeting. And that can be launched pretty quickly as soon as it has your approval. That can be launched.
SurveyMonkey, if people don't like overlook it, like, oh my gosh, that's another email. I mean, it's a good thing we didn't do it right around like Black Friday because.
Right.
And Cyber Monday, I mean, my emails just exploded.
Well, there's a lot of ways to send out the link. If you have like a Connect Ed or, can send out, there's a lot of ways to send out the link besides email. Put it on your website.
Through the various teacher seesaw accounts. So you can actually click a link through all that, so which is a topic we were discussing earlier.
So am I hearing that you'd rather move the focus groups to January?
No, I think the concern is just how much we could feedback we'd get, but I think that it has been the common goal to try and move this forward as quickly as possible, while still garnering, good results, good feedback from the community. So, I mean, I guess at that point we are looking towards your advice and how successful you've been, in conducting.
I really can't say that I've been less successful in having focus groups in the late fall, early winter than any other time. A blend could be following the timeline that has that final community meeting after the holidays. So that's another chance for some community feedback. So maybe the timeline that has that final community meeting on January 9th gives a little bit more time. We could leave the survey up for longer that way. And maybe that's the decision to make then, if that's the concern.
I like that.
Okay. So that would be version 2 then of the timeline, which would have the focus group still taking place this month, but it would have that additional meeting in January for people to come and give some feedback about verifying it. Could even, again, if you wanted to, at your January 15th meeting, allow another opportunity for some public comment, community feedback before you actually finalize the leadership profile. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're looking at version 2 of the timeline. Yes? Okay. So one thing that I'll need to know in setting up the focus groups is who in the district offices can help me coordinate. Do I look to maybe your assistant, to Vinny?
I would assume that would be me.
Vinny's ready to volunteer? Okay.
Yeah, because you're going to need to have a focus group and, actually, Vinny, do you have access to sending out things through Aspen, or is that going to have to be coordinated somehow?
I do not, but I'm sure I can.
Find someone who does? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
You know someone.
Yep.
I'll be talking with you tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. And then you and I can talk about how the focus groups and survey link can be conveyed out to the community, what resources you have to do that. Then the next, I gave a copy of a draft survey. So it's a pretty, honestly, they tend to be pretty boilerplate. But if there's any changes that you see that you want made, any questions to add, anything specifically that you'd like to put.
And of course, you're the professional, but as a parent and doing surveys, number 3, is it possible to break that question into 2 questions? It may be too lengthy, but I feel like we should have challenges in one question and areas of growth and development in another.
Absolutely.
So
Yep,
that's
easy.
Yep.
So I have an email that has a whole bunch of questions in it that I can't find now.
Something that you sent or no?
Nope. Oh, I think I found it. Okay. So earlier in the year, putting together her entry plan, Dr. Kuchenberger had put together some questions that never actually came to us and never actually went out. So, but it might be good for us to be asking some of these questions at the same time because they're very similar. Let's see, there was one, things like, it's kind of in yours, but like what does the district need to work on or improve? Like would that be something that you would see as being important in the survey for building this?
I guess I would have considered that.
Within that?
I mean, you can reword the question, but that would be a challenge.
Okay.
Or an area of growth.
Okay.
So if you wanted to reword the question so it didn't say challenges or areas of growth, but areas where the district needed to improve.
Something along, and then the other thing is, a lot of this has been going on about these workshops and what is learning, and I feel like the question about what are your beliefs about learning might be important information for us to get from the community if we're going to be considering taking a different direction with what maybe we've been providing in the past, to see if the community's in line with that. I don't know what people, I mean, it's open-ended, which is really hard, but we need to communicate to the community, and how are we going to do that? And I don't know.
But this is,
yeah, go for it.
This is a search for the superintendent. I know we need to know what our community's beliefs are in education, but I don't know if we need to put that in there now. I don't know.
I mean,
I would think not, but that's.
Okay. And then Craig's question about, I don't have, because I'm trying to go between 3 different pieces of paper here. His question about what are the strategies to make, this change in learning happen, or to just discern what the community's desire is for learning? Like, how could that be incorporated somehow?
Can you sort of
I don't know.
restate where you're trying to go with the question?
Just
So make sure
in general,
Yeah.
I feel like somehow we should get feedback from the community
Yep.
about if they're looking for a visionary leader to change learning, or if they're looking for a traditional keep it rolling with
Manager.
what we've been manager. Yeah. So I'm trying, like, how do we make that kind of a question that will help us sort of focus the search? Because that's really, are we looking for a change management person? Are we looking for an administration type person? Are we looking for someone, you know what I mean? But I don't know how to capture it.
Can I just go back to a point that Jen Clifford made when she was talking about the strategic blueprint, that it doesn't matter who the leader is, it's really what, as a community, we believe in and, want to.
But if the person at the top isn't someone who's wanting to change, that's a problem. And if the community wants change and the person at the top doesn't, that's a problem. If the person at the top wants change and the community doesn't, that's a problem. So, like, how do we know what the community wants?
So would some of that come through when you're asking for what do you see as the challenges in the areas of growth?
I don't think so.
You think it's a different question?
I think it's, I think it's more a philosophical
Yeah,
question. I don't know.
I think I know where you're going, because the
Please.
questions on the survey, I think, are good.
Yeah.
I think they focus on the skill sets and the competencies of the superintendent, the person, right? And I think what Michelle is trying to get at is, what does the community want in terms of our educational vision? And does this person then fulfill that, or do they not fulfill that, right?
Yeah.
Right, so it's really more of a, where do we as a community want to see education for our kids going? And then how do we find a person to help drive towards that kind of goal, right?
Yeah, like,
Well,
have
the
you seen us-
second part, how do you find that person, is not going to be in the survey. That's going to be
Yeah.
your work,
Yeah,
right?
of course, yes.
So
Yes,
it's,
yes,
so
yes.
it's characteristics we're looking for in a leader,
Or,
right?
Well, where do we want to go as
Philosophy of
a,
education.
where do we, let me see, where do you want to go?
Can I ask, so if we take that and maybe put something in, you know, what do you think, that, like 5, where's the top of the question here? 5 skill sets? You know, please identify the 5 top skill sets, and you're adding something there about,
so
or do
another.
you want it to be an open-ended question?
So another way it's phrased here is, from your vantage point, what is the future vision that you would like to see in the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District? I mean, does that sort of encapsulate, does that sound like?
Yeah, I know where you're going. I'm struggling, because
Great, let's get us to a question.
I like it. I'm struggling because I was trying to figure out, like, how does that inform, I haven't quite figured it out yet, but how does that inform our process, right? And where does it inform our process? Is it at this particular stage? Is it when we have actual applicants and we want to interview them?
But
right?
this is our only chance to ask.
But
Right,
Are we asking about their philosophy of
We're asking the
education?
community.
Yeah.
That's my
Okay,
concern.
I
I
get it.
don't want to lose the chance to, know that the community has
Skin in the game, or.
something that they want,
Yes.
that their vision is somehow going to align.
State what you,
So this
can you-
question was, from your vantage point, what is the future vision you would like to see in the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District?
Okay.
Maybe
So
they're
the
learning.
question that Michelle's reading is a very broad question about education and educational values generally, right? It's not specific to a person or a skill set that person
Right,
would possess.
right.
I think that's what we're trying to get at. Is like,
But-
can we solicit that kind of information from the community to then help inform the characteristics we want in an individual?
So I guess my thinking is there a way to tighten that question a little bit so that it just seems like such an open-ended question
Yeah.
that I'm not sure it will garner
Somehow it needs to be
useful
narrowed down.
information.
I'm not sure that it's not covered in 3 and 4 of the draft survey document. What are the challenge areas of growth and development involving the Hamilton-Wenham Regional Schools they would like addressed by the next superintendent, including new programs and services? And then what are the most important goals and outcomes for the Hamilton-Wenham Regional Schools the next superintendent must pursue and reach? You know, maybe those aren't specific enough, but I think they both definitely touch on exactly what you're talking about. I mean, maybe we add
think they're good
an
questions,
additional question like question 5, where instead of being person-specific, you're picking the 5, most common, issues for the district itself, and same type of thing.
Just think you have one chance to know.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
You have
I
one
think-
chance
I
to
think-
know.
I
And
think
if we
the thing
don't
is,
ask
like-
it now, later on, we're going to be asking ourselves, Well, does the community really think that?
So I think the question really is sort of how and when do we know that the community's vision and beliefs of education align with where we want to go as a district, right? Because it's not about so much like the skill sets and strengths and assets and challenges of the district, because you can sort of pinpoint individual things. It's really more of a sort of like a philosophical kind of thing. Like what is the belief in what are the beliefs in the vision of education for you as a kid in this district, for your kid in this district?
Right.
Right. I mean, that's a very broad question.
But we also want to be careful not to scare people off from answering if we get too way out there with our questions. Like if we might have to keep it broad, because I would say a lot of people don't really understand some of this that we're asking. They're going to look at it just like, I'm going to ignore this, because they just hope their child gets a good education. And they might not get, we as a committee have a lot more information than the average parent, I would say.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to keep debating this, but I think the question is really sort of like, what do you value in education for your kid?
Yeah,
right?
and you
It could
could-
be like,
yeah,
you know
and
what,
just
I
be
want this kid to learn math, and the periodic table of elements, and they need to be able to do all this sort of stuff. Or someone
Algebra
says,
2,
I want
periodic
someone
table, all
to
the
be
useless stuff.
a problem solver, a critical thinker, a blah blah blah. I mean, logically, it will go both ways. I will tell you that. I mean, we could all guarantee that it'll go both ways. I'm just sort of figuring out like where do we then go with that, right? Because we know we're probably going to get divergent responses in an open-ended question.
Yeah, but it's real easy to, you just don't ask an open-ended question. You just throw a punch list of 20.
Yeah, but a question like that, though, that you're leading, you
Don't wanna lead,
You
yeah.
want to, you don't want to lead the respondent to your what you think your beliefs really are, right? So you can come up with a list of like 10 different things and sort of say, do you believe in, this is a bad, I wouldn't say this because it's a bad question, but like ranked choice, critical thinking over, rote memorization over whatever. I mean, again, that's bad. Don't use that. I'm trying to think.
No, I guess what I'm sort of thinking is these sound like strategic planning type questions that, and I believe you're in the point of sort of thinking about your next strategic plan. Your one ends in 2020, I think, if I remember correctly.
No, it ended in 2018.
It ended in 2018. So are you embarking on sort of the next strategic planning process? So I think what I'm hearing is you want to make sure that you have someone, honestly, really that has the skill set to take the community in the direction the community wants to go.
Right.
Along with making sure that there's some match of belief, or some match of where does the community think education wants to go, where does this person think education wants to go?
Yeah, because when we go to ask the candidates, what's your educational philosophy? If it's not in line with the community.
I guess what I'm wondering is if in the next few months with some of the things that I saw coming from the strategic plan or from the district, the school improvement plans and the other questions being asked in the district, if you will have developed the answers to some of that so that when you're questioning candidates, you'll have more of an idea.
Yeah, but that's coming more internal, and what we're recognizing is we have this opportunity to be surveying external and make sure that even our strategic blueprint, which we were just been discussing for the past month and a half at this point, is in line with what the community wants, so we can get the support to be innovative. And I think what Michelle and Jean are sort of getting at is we do have this golden opportunity and to make sure that we're not letting it go by without sort of at least in some way getting the feedback of the community in where they'd like to see education going.
So could we look at the end of the draft after question number 7. Number 8 says, what questions would you like the search committee, could you stick number 8 in there being, what is your vision of education in Hamilton Wenham?
I think it could be number 10. Stick it right at the end.
Well, no, but then you'd lose them probably because you're asking what questions and please add any additional comments.
But if you get lost at the end, you've gotten everything else.
Yeah, in that, yeah, and that way you're not saying as a parent, for your kid, you're just saying, what is your vision? What do you see your vision of, like you're saying, of the Hamilton Wenham School District? Because you're going to be asking across the board, not just parents, for this.
Right. I would, if you want to add that question, I would make it the new 8.
Yep.
And then what questions and additional comments says the 9 and the 10.
Yep.
Is that how we want to phrase it? What's the vision of education?
In
I
Hamilton
can't
Wenham.
hear you, sorry, Jean. What do you say?
Sorry. Is that how you want to phrase that question?
What's your vision of education?
In Hamilton Wenham.
What is your?
It's a tough question.
What is
for
the future vision
name and-
you would like to see in the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What does the future of education look like in Hamilton?
Or what is the future of education in the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District?
Your vision.
Your vision for the future?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Is your vision.
Or is that redundant? Your vision for the future?
Doesn't, no, I don't think so,
Jetpacks. I was
because it could
promised
be your vision in
jetpacks.
the past. What did it look
Vision,
like back there?
future,
I don't remember. I know, we're too busy raising kids, you can't remember.
Okay, good.
So what is your vision for the future in the Hamilton Wenham?
What is your vision of education, right? Is that what we said?
Yes, of education.
What is your vision of education in the future?
Yep.
In Hamilton Wenham.
Got the in Hamilton Wenham part.
Gotta get that.
So what is your vision of education in the future of HWRSD?
What does education look like?
Thank you, Dorothy.
All right. Where's my checklist? Okay, so we'll break out that, so it's going to be 11 questions because we're going to break out yours to 2. Challenges and areas of growth.
Yep.
And add the question about vision. Everything else look okay?
Actually, I had one suggestion for number 7. If I didn't see anything explicit about strategic planning, is it embedded in one of these abilities?
I believe it is embedded.
Maybe you should add that into 7, yeah.
Can certainly do that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Presser, may I ask one question? The surveys, can you leave it and come back to it and not lose it? Lose your work?
SurveyMonkey.
This is an online thing, because this is a lot of time to ask somebody to,
That I don't actually know the answer to that question.
it'd be nice to be able to leave it and go back to it when you want, then submit it, almost like a Google survey or something. Take it,
I don't know the
because this,
answer.
it's just, I can see this taking a long time, a lot of time out of someone's night. People usually do things in chunks. Takes me a week to watch a movie. I watch 10-minute increments.
I would say, because we usually get reports of how long the average time it takes to complete the survey.
Yeah.
And without, the one that I gave you is generally boilerplate. People generally spend less than 20 minutes on it.
Oh, okay, all right. Maybe
So
I'm
Survey
overthinking
Monkey, it
this.
looks like
Yeah.
you could loop back.
Yeah, but the survey creator needs to edit the collector setting to allow respondents to edit their responses. Then the responses can be completed a portion of the survey and later returned.
Okay.
So that's something you have to do in order to allow it to happen. Yay!
It's a button.
I will make that note. So just to, the bullet about strategic planning. So experience in developing strategic plans?
Sure. Yeah.
In developing, well, really more developing and executing, or
Yeah.
something like that. Yep.
Implementing, yeah.
Yep. So the other question, I don't know if it's for the committee or not, or is these two, question number 5 and question number 7.
Yeah,
We're choosing 5 out of a whole set.
yeah.
But it's not ranked choice. Do we
It's
want to?
not ranked choice,
Right. Do
no.
we want to know what of the 5 that people pick, which they would feel to be the most important of the 5?
The
Like,
ranked choice, I mean, you'll see what's most important to it'll be ranked what's most important to the set of respondents as a whole.
Yeah.
I think it would get really complicated to try and rank.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole, school of survey, pedagogy and
Yep.
methodology for some of the stuff, and I didn't know. I'm okay. I just want to make sure that when we get the results back from Dorothy, we're not thinking, oh, what did people pick as the top choice? We would just know that people pick this as the most of the options there, not that they
Yes.
Thought
prioritize
it was
that
the
more.
most, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
I would say that in general, there are a few that absolutely rise to the top.
Okay.
So whether it's important to know which is most people picked as absolutely the top, or whether,
Okay.
I think,
All right.
I think you'll see there's some that absolutely rise to the top.
Okay, that's good. You've seen a lot more of these.
We done with the survey? Okay.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. So screening so can I go back to focus groups for a minute, because we talked about when, but we didn't talk about who the focus groups would be. And I did give you a list of what I would recommend as the focus groups that are held. I just want to make sure you're okay with that.
I think we could probably name the people that would end up being on the focus.
Well, this is what I was going to say. At the focus groups, I think, well, first of all, it's the Bucher School, not the Butler School, but that's okay. But, but you probably could get the parents from the elementary school all in one meeting.
I just didn't
They're
know how
used
far.
to that.
Pardon?
They're used to being treated that way.
Okay, okay. So one for the elementary, one for the middle high?
Two, well, I'd say one for middle, one for high school.
You think?
Yeah.
You think?
Oh,
You
middle
get
school
a
is such a
sixth grade
different
parent who's a completely
It
different
is
place than
it's
a senior.
1,000 parent. It is it's like.
It's 6 years, but 1,000
800
miles.
some odd people. Although that's the same for the elementary schools too.
Yeah, middle school and high school.
And will
Middle school and high school
students,
separate?
Yes,
Okay.
separate.
would there be a possibility of or a necessity for a focus group of high school students? Have you had success with that?
Not really.
Okay. Fine.
Does CPAC need to be included?
Excuse me.
I would say not separately, because they are parents that
Yeah,
fit
they're
into all of
parents.
this.
I would
Yep.
include them as parents.
Yep.
Okay? So the next thing on my list is the screening committee. So you want the screening committee to be representative, but not get too big. So.
Wait, what?
You want the screening committee to be representative of the stakeholders, but not get too large in number. The larger it is, the harder it is sometimes to get to decisions. So 6, 7, 9, 10. So I think this is 11. 3 teachers, 3 parents, 1 central office administrator, 2 community at large, and 2 school committee members. Sometimes screening committees have school committee members, and sometimes they don't. In the office, we have different philosophies about whether or not the school committee members should or shouldn't be on the screening committee. The con is that because it absolutely cannot be a quorum, according to the open meeting law, that there's a couple people who have more knowledge of the candidates once you get to the finalist stage. The pro is that having school committee members on the screening committee can sometimes help the screening committee stay more focused on the mission of finding the candidates that the school committee has defined.
Will you be moderating?
Yes.
Yes.
So, not knowing anything, I would think that you would be the one in charge to keep the screening committee on the track.
We do our best. Sometimes having the school committee there can be helpful
Jean,
too.
did you serve on the committee for Hamilton's town?
I did, yes.
So, and was there a selectman on that?
There was not.
Yeah, and when I did that for the town manager, served on that search committee, we did not have a person from the select board on it.
I'm not saying,
Yeah.
I'm not saying from the select board.
No, what I'm saying is that I
The
think it
hiring
was
body.
better because then
I gotcha.
the
To-
choice
to
came
not-
from the community.
Yep.
And then the board was seeing them fresh.
Yep.
And not going like, well, gee, I wish we had picked blah out of the preliminary group.
One of our last search, Roger was on.
Yes, the last search Roger was on it, yeah.
And then I also think it gives the community at large more agency.
I do too.
Yeah.
So
And
you're
if
saying,
we're out
you're
of it.
saying not the school committee
Yeah,
members.
if we're out
Okay.
of it, yeah, let them.
I think we don't need to have a member of the
They
committee.
voted us in, so that they're doing their job now, and then they'll present who they think is best to us, and then we'll.
So does that mean, so one thing I have about this community at large thing is there's 2 towns, and then you might want more than one representative from each town.
So I didn't really.
If we're not going to have
because-
2 school committee members, maybe we could make that
4.
2 from each town, or
So, and this was something that I need your input on, because you know the community better, but I didn't know how important it was to have, because you run your elections differently than many other regional districts where people are elected by town, you run it all as
one.
An open
one.
seat, yeah.
Whether you felt it, whether you would be looking for community representatives from each town or just in general.
I
think when we
would
make the
actually,
decision, we could.
I would actually recommend that we not prescribe a number from each town.
Yeah.
Because it would, in my mind, perpetuate that Hamilton, that there's a separation between Hamilton and Wenham, and, which there are by law, right? But the district is not, right?
That's a good idea. I think it should be just
2 community members.
2 community members.
Not going to be parents anyways, right? Because they're going to fill all the slots. So
Right.
2 community members, yeah.
And it should be the best, I guess, the best qualified, because,
Well-
that's what we did with, we're a regional school district. It's an open, how we decided in our regional agreement, it's open seats. It's a community.
Well, and you might have a pool of parents, and you might have 2 or 3 from the elementary school level that you wish could be on it. So they could be the community members. Like, these don't have to be people who aren't parents necessarily. Like, when we have the full pool, we can choose from among them and place them accordingly if necessary. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
I mean,
So-
I would rather have more parents than more just random people
Yeah.
from the community. So
Yeah.
if we say 4 community members, then those 4 community members could or could not be parents. But we definitely will have at least 3 parents, kind of thing, yeah.
Yep.
So Dorothy, what's the process you used in the past to fill the screening committee?
That,
Yeah.
there is no one process.
Yeah, of course.
So, of course not. So generally, for picking someone from the central office administration, you would let that pool of people pick who they would send. Most often, I would say that you go to the teachers' union and say, send us a teacher from each level.
Yep.
And then for the parents and community, there's kind of 2 ways you could do it. You have your letters of interest. You could pick names out of a hat, or you could look at the letters of interest and make your decision about who's on it.
I see.
One thing, if we're thinking that we're not going to have school committee members on there, the 2 sort of stakeholders that I don't see represented on here, would be union reps, but if you actually had the union, sort of involved in choosing the teachers, I guess that covers that. But anyone from the leadership committee, other than the central office, because I think of sort of school-based leadership is different than central office leadership.
But leadership is central office.
So, school-based leadership?
So you could
versus
add a
central
principal.
office.
You could add a principal.
I think they're two very distinctive things, and they
Yep.
should both be represented, is what I'm
I
saying.
agree with you.
No, that's-
Yeah, I
that
think
makes
someone
sense.
from
That
central
makes
office
sense.
and then
And a building
a
principal. The
principal
building
or
leader.
assistant principal.
Yep,
The
a
building
building
leadership.
leadership, so one. And I think even adding that, I don't think you're getting too big.
Yeah.
And then, so one of the comments from someone else who's done searches was that oftentimes the hardest thing is the calendaring of the committee.
So this is the trick. We set the dates before we solicit
Right, so that's
input.
what I was going to say. I was thinking
Yep.
we should give some sort of idea of when they're going to meet so
Yep.
that people can say, I can make those dates, therefore I am a candidate,
Yeah,
or there's
exactly.
no way.
Exactly. So if you look at the draft letter that I sent, it left blank for, make
Yep.
sure you're available on these dates before you apply.
Yep.
And if you look at the timeline, then we've put a date for the screening committee to get oriented, to pick semifinalists and conduct the interviews. So they may not use all of those dates from the 24th to
Excuse
the
me.
3rd, but they should reserve them all.
From when?
From February 24th to March 3rd. So what we have here is February 12th is the screening committee gets oriented. That's just before the application deadline, just before vacation. And then right after vacation, they would meet.
When you
to
say
do their
just
work.
before, how just before? I guess I'm trying to find, is it the Friday before, the Thursday before?
It's a Wednesday. I believe it's a Wednesday.
Excuse me.
Friday's
So
the
all
application
those
deadline, yeah, on the
easier,
14th.
early going outers are probably still going to be here on Wednesday. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, no, Friday is the deadline, and that's the 14th.
Yeah.
So the 12th would be the Wednesday.
Yeah. That'll be a school committee night, because that'll be
Doesn't
the
matter
date
if
that we
you're
vote
not
our
on this-
budget.
What
Well,
date?
it's a date of a public hearing on our budget.
Oh, okay. We can make it the 11th.
The
We can make it
12th
the 11th.
of
That's,
February, won't it?
February 12th is the final vote.
Yeah, so that will
So
be our
we'll-
public
we'll-
hearing on our budget.
so we could
Public
do the
hearings before
11th or
that.
the 10th.
And there's supposed to be a public hearing on the day of the vote, too, I think.
Well, certainly, yeah, there will be public comment.
I don't, now I'm doubt, look at you, you're making me doubt myself.
No, I thought we said it was going to be January 18th.
I think the public hearing is 15 days before, no, there's a public hearing in the meeting in
Before the
which-
final vote, so it's in January.
Yeah, but I don't.
I'll tell you the exact date in a minute.
I remember this is.
Find it real quick.
There is supposed to be a public hearing, but I believe it's in the meeting in which you, we have recently started doing one early, so it's actually useful. But I think it says that we're supposed to do it in the meeting in which we vote.
You're supposed to do the public hearing
In the
before the
meeting.
meeting when we vote?
In the meeting in which you vote.
I thought that was just a result of scheduling more than tying the two together, right?
It's stupid in the regional agreement, and if we
Oh,
should
I see
ever
what you're
fix
saying.
it,
Got it.
it would be amazing.
122, I think is what we had said for the public hearing.
Not less than 30 days prior to the date of the adoption.
Yeah.
I'm showing January 22nd.
For the public hearing.
She's actually reading the
Yeah.
regional agreement.
So Dorothy, Michelle's looking through that. So let me ask you in the wild chances that we get more people who want to be part of the screening committee than we have slots, is it your choice or is it our choice?
It's your choice.
It's our choice to fill that. Okay, I got it.
It says that At such hearing, the committee shall adopt an annual operating budget and maintenance budget on or before the latest date therefore permitted by law. So there has to be a hearing in the meeting in which you adopt the budget. Whether it's the only public hearing, that's a question.
But was the on or before part again?
The last date therefore permissible, but it says, at such hearing, the committee shall adopt its annual operating budget. So you have to adopt the budget
In a
in a hearing.
That regional agreement is so badly written.
So that'll be on
So-
February 5th.
February
5th.
5th. Okay. So I guess it'll be on February 5th, because we won't be adopting it on the last possible day, but I bet we will, because I bet we'll still be negotiating it with the towns.
So if we can easily, the 12th was somewhat arbitrary. If you want to make it the 10th or the 11th, easy enough.
It shouldn't be on the date of the public hearing.
Okay, so if we avoid a Wednesday, we're okay. So let's make it the 11th.
Sounds good.
So, so what I have is a central office administrator, a building leader, representative, a teacher from each level, a parent from each level, 4 community at-large representatives. That sound right?
Did we want 4 if we're not going to do 2 from each town?
Yes, we want 4 because we might want more than one parent, or, we may end up saying we want one parent from each school, or,
Can we say at least 2, no more than 4, to give, because you don't want to make the committee so unwieldy.
no, I agree.
That's why I'm nervous
think-
to say
No more than
4.
4, something like that.
Yeah, no more than 4 would be fine.
So if you get 3, you can still proceed.
I think 3 is that magic number.
Yeah.
Want 3?
Does that work?
3?
No more than 4.
But at least 2.
Ooh, it's a double inequality. No less than, but greater than.
Right, because you want at least 2. but
I agree.
we don't want-
Suggest that you actually decide on a number, because you
Okay.
don't want the impression that you cut off to avoid having a certain person who might apply
Oh, that's a good
on.
point. That's a
So
good
I
point.
think you
Okay.
decide on a
Personally,
number.
I think-
All right, then I don't care.
So in the past, the committee has always designated that there would be like a town official from each town. So since we haven't done that, I feel like we should leave it at 4, because we may want someone who's just a community member, and we may want someone who's an official.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
4.
but we may not, depending
This is-
upon
I have worked with.
what we get.
I have worked with screening committees that are larger than what your,
Yeah.
number is.
Yeah.
So you're not over the top.
Okay.
So
That's good.
4 is not unreasonable.
Okay.
Okay.
And then what I'm hearing is, for the community representatives and for the parents, you will look at the letters and make your decision, not draw things out of a hat. You'll make the decision
think
based
that's-
on who you feel is going, the slot they represent and what you feel they'll
Yes.
contribute. Okay.
So then, when would we solicit those, and how?
So there's
Probably
a
sooner
letter
versus
that's
later.
drafted.
Yeah.
And I'll need someone who's generally the chair is the signatory on the letter. So I would say that once the letter is completely drafted, David, you and I will make sure you're happy with it and give it the okay, we can get it right out. Given that the screening committee isn't going to meet until February, we could actually have you solicit them up until sometime in early January and make a decision at maybe your second January meeting.
Well, or actually our first one, because it's like the second week.
First one's the second Wednesday.
Or it was.
Because it's the second Wednesday, yeah.
The first is the first.
Because the first is a Wednesday, so we'll meet
Yep,
on
so,
the 8th.
so in the letter, we'll put what date the decision will be made, and
Yeah.
we can have it be, so people have ample time to
Yep.
get their letter of interest in.
Yep.
Make sense?
Yep.
And so those will go to the central office, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, so,
Should we set them to an email or a specific person, or does it have to be a letter?
It'll have in the letter who
There's a sample letter in there.
yeah, there's a
Right.
sample letter that I
On
sent.
page 18,
Right,
there's a
so-
sample
but I'm
letter
saying,
with.
Who are they emailing it back to?
Well, you'll have to tell me who the
Yeah,
person is
that's what
that
I'm
you want to email it back
asking.
to. Oh, you weren't asking
Set up
me.
to be
Okay,
me.
I get it.
Okay.
So, Dave, you and I I'll redraft the letter with the dates in it. You can look at it, tell me any changes you see, and we'll get
Sure.
that fixed?
Yep.
Okay.
And
Here's my checklist.
Vinny, do you have any suggestions as who in Central should receive the email?
I thought we said Dave was getting it. Is he
Yes,
not?
I missed that point,
Oh.
sorry.
So everything's funneling through me.
Okay. I have been in charge of this up to this point, so that's kind of insulting, but if you want to take it over and run with
I
it, go
did
for
not
it.
me. I was actually surprised to see my name on there when I was just flipping through the sample
It
letter.
can- it
I
does-
have no
it's
problem.
just- the letter just typically goes to the chair.
The letter, I totally understand that. That's
Yeah.
fine, but.
So,
So the deadline, though, should be first is the Thursday. Friday would be the 3rd. It should be before the 3rd because we have to get it ready for our packet. For
Okay.
the 8th, so it should be like the 2nd.
January 2nd. Where's my letter? Where's my copy of the letter?
so why don't we change Michelle to the signatory on the note?
Sure.
And then they would go to Michelle as well?
Yeah.
Yep.
It would actually just go to Michelle, just sort of keep it streamlined, as long as that's okay with you.
Okay. I'll provide the letters to everybody. Because I know they're going to be flowing in.
We should make
Get
it
the
the
word out.
And
everybody.
anybody from Hamilton who sends in a letter will get a response of, would you like to be on the committee?
Right. So, look at you.
Okay. So the last thing for tonight, there will certainly be future decisions, is just a little bit of your thoughts about advertising and starting to develop the advertising. I have samples of, I'm not sure I have copies for everybody on each, but
Thank you.
these are just some sample brochures that we got. Whether or not you decide to do any print advertising, we still develop the brochure and we put it as a PDF on, any place that it is advertised electronically. The trifold, I think that you're looking at is kind of the most common format that people like. Just shows you some of the things that are in it. You'll want something that's sort of a community profile and some information about the district. And we can work on, we can start working on that right away. If you want to give me some direction, maybe Vinny, of, who will start to work with me on getting some of the information that goes in it. I'm starting to think that maybe my coming to your next meeting on the 18th to wrap up some decisions quickly might be a good idea in terms of keeping everything going, just to make sure we're online. One of the questions to be thinking about is, do you want any print advertising, or do you want to just go fully electronic? It's been several years, actually, since any district decided to advertise in Ed Week.
So actually, Barblehead is in Ed Week, and I chuckle every week that I see it.
Well, that's because they got a superintendent from Wisconsin one time through that. So, yeah.
But you can get a superintendent from Wisconsin without being in Ed Week.
I know,
Right.
yeah.
Just nice seeing your name there.
We had a principal candidate that year, too.
If you look through the materials that, that we provided as part of the RFP, the position will be advertised through the National Association of Superintendent Searchers, which is our counterpart organizations in every state. So it'll get exposure that way. People know where to look. If they're looking for a job in Massachusetts, they know to look on our website. They know to look on the superintendent's website. So really, the actual physical printing and mailing of brochures is becoming much less prevalent.
Well, I'm sure you just really ruin the night of Ed Week's circulation manager, so.
Ed Week will get well circulated without, without the ads. Hopefully, it's their editorial and content that actually drives the
They'd have to move back to
sale
the
of the
old
publication.
magazine format. I hate the newspaper format.
If we were to do print, where would you go door to door? Like, how would this be distributed?
We have a mailing list. It would go to, it would go again to each state association, each counterpart state association for them to broadcast, to put out. It would get mailed to, actually to every district in the state. And that gets, you know, sometimes it gets like passed around in the district or whatever.
Uh-huh. Do you, in this digital age, do you see any value to a hard copy anymore?
Less and less.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I say, the people that know, that are interested, know where to look to find where the jobs are being posted. I mean, people already know the, you know, the districts here. They know this job, there's going to be a search here. They know other places that there's going to be a search.
Because you put it on your website too, coming up.
Yep.
For superintendent search or interim, because when we did the interim in the first place, that's
Yep.
what we did.
Yep.
Is this printed after the survey is done?
Yeah, well, so that, good question. So that is printed after you have been presented the leadership profile, or after you've been presented the focus groups and the survey results, because you're the ones who actually decide on the key criteria and the qualifications. And that comes from a combination of your knowledge, your desire, and the feedback that you're getting from the community.
Great, thank you.
Do you know if last year when we were doing the interim, did we have a community profile?
No, I don't believe.
I thought I remember
Actually,
having a short
I don't
look.
know that, but
That would be
But I don't
good
remember
information
where.
to know if it was worthwhile.
we did.
I love
I thought we
this.
did
I
too.
love this.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Love this one.
Which one?
During the summer months, visitors enjoy touring our working farms, festivals, family outings, and fairs. In the fall, families from around the region enjoy our many pick-your-own apple farms and enjoy horse-drawn carriage rides.
So,
So it's like from the tourism board.
Well, part of what you're trying to do is make this look like a community that someone would want to spend a lot of time in.
We
would want to-
are.
Well, you have to tell them why, right?
Can we, don't want to speak for everybody, but can we make decide if just to do a digital version and not a hard copy?
Yes, we can.
yeah.
Perfect, okay.
Yep.
Super, great.
Sorry, thanks. Thanks, Michelle.
Right.
So we're thinking about
And who's
apple
gonna,
picking.
who's gonna work with Dorothy on our
On our what? Community profile?
digital PDF, our
So that's-
digital,
Well, we have a
Do you-
graphic
so some-
designer
so-
on the committee.
Do you want to do it?
Me?
Okay. So
I'm very cynical. I don't know how much how.
No,
I thought you were saying that you
I
wanted
think
to
I
do
can
that.
do this because I think both towns have just done their own profiles for their
Oh, yeah.
leadership searches.
Yeah.
So I think I would be able to pull
Maybe
that
that's what
together
I'm
from
thinking
those
of.
two places.
Oh, that'd be great.
So,
That would be a great place to start.
yeah.
Yep.
And then pretty much all of these things are true. They love to come here and pick apples. We have a great fall. So just copy it.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? So no matter what, you do develop a PDF brochure that's part of the contract?
Yes, yes.
If they choose to have it printed out, that is an additional cost, correct?
Right, which we
Just
will
so you
not
know
do.
that.
No, no, no.
That's why I wanted to
Don't
say
need-
we're in a
yeah.
little bit of a budget
And I
problem,
think,
so.
but you know,
A little
having a
bit.
PDF, that's pretty much what we have done in the
This
past.
would be under the, not
We
the
haven't-
freeze, but
The
what's
last
that called?
couple searches, we have not
Curtailment.
sent out something. It's been a PDF.
Yeah, it's fine.
yeah, perfect, save
So
a tree.
I think that's our vote to go all digital.
And
Yes.
yeah.
Digital.
Do we need an official
That's the
vote?
kind of leader we're looking for.
Someone who knows to look and find the job.
Someone who can
Digitally?
find the job online
Digitally.
easily. Yeah.
Can I just ask when we do the brochure that we have pictures of kids and not just
Yeah.
buildings?
So we can,
When we have ugly buildings, we
Then you've
we
got
have pretty
parents.
kids.
so even though they're a little dated, we can probably use the ones from our website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
ones from your website would already be,
We have a
would
whole
have the
file with
okay
it.
that the kids could appear, right?
We have a whole file that
You're
we've been
right.
creating.
Right.
Yeah.
We can take a picture of Ava. She's a cute kid.
We have sometimes run around with cameras like, you know, the parent standing there, the kid's there. Can we use the picture? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Perfect.
I think that's it for tonight. As I said, as we get going, if I can let you know if maybe coming back on the 18th for something much shorter than tonight, if there's any follow-up might be helpful.
That actually went a lot quicker than I thought, so thank you, and thanks everyone at the table for really drilling in and getting that done.
You've been here for 6 hours, so thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Actually,
Not
still
done
a
yet.
few.
She's been here a
for
while.
a
She's not
few.
done yet.
Oh, okay.
So,
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you asked me to come tonight also to talk a little bit about the formative assessment of the superintendent. I could do a brief slideshow, but I'm going to skip it because I think I can do it without that. So just let me talk. Are you ready to move on to that?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So just very briefly, I could come back at some point and do a whole presentation about the soup to nuts of superintendent evaluation, but I think tonight you just want to focus on the formative assessment part. So basically, when we think about superintendent evaluation and what's involved in it, we think that there's 3 pieces of it. There's a 5-step cycle, a 2-part tool, and a multi-part rating system. So the 2-part tool is the goals that you set and the standards of effective administrator practice, which relate to the goals. So my understanding is Julie has goals that you've agreed on, and a limited set of indicators related to those goals. Then the multi-part rating system is you will provide at the end of the cycle a rating on the goals, a rating on the standards, and an overall summative rating. So right now what you're thinking about in the formative assessment is that 5-step cycle. The cycle begins and ends with a self-assessment. So what happened in the past, in the case of someone who wasn't here in the past, it's going to be, you know, when I entered the district, sort of what was my assessment, what did I see, see the needs, what did I see as the work that needs to be done, so what are the goals that I'm going to set for my first year here. So taking that assessment, you agreed, you voted to approve the goals, and there's a plan that goes along with the goals. So the second step is creating the goals and creating the plan that will be carried out during the course of the evaluation cycle. Then the plan gets implemented. That's the 3rd step. The 4th step and the 5th step are the formative evaluation, the formative assessment, and the summative evaluation. So at a minimum, you should be thinking about evaluations during 3 meetings during the course of the year. When you're approving the goals, when you're doing the formative assessment, and when you're doing the summative assessment. Ideally, you're thinking about the goals much more frequently than that. You're thinking about, you're getting presentations throughout the course of the year about the progress that's being made, and you're sort of building your knowledge of the goals being implemented and the evidence behind it as the year goes on. The formative assessment is really just a check-in. It's not a written assessment. It's really a chance for the committee to get a report on goal progress, and it can serve several functions. It can make sure that you're updated on goal progress, obviously. It's a chance to clarify understanding of, we set these goals. Julie talked in the school improvement plans about working to set smarter goals. So if the goals are smart, then hopefully everyone on the committee has essentially the same understanding of what those goals are supposed to accomplish. And if you have that discussion at the beginning, it's going to make it easier when you get to the summative. The ratings should be tighter among all the group because at least you have the same understanding of what's supposed to happen. So the formative assessment gives you that chance to have that check-in, to have that discussion again about, do we all understand what these goals are going to accomplish, to get an update on where you stand now, and to get sort of a picture of what does the rest of the cycle hold. So it's really just a chance for a good update and discussion on what progress is being made during the evaluation cycle.
So you don't think it needs to be,
It absolutely does not need to be written.
does not need to be, or?
I've never heard of anybody doing
There we
it
go.
actually as a written document. It's really intended to be an agenda item where you get an update, have a discussion, and if there's, occasionally a goal may need to be tweaked. For example, if a goal depended on a grant coming in that didn't materialize, obviously you might need to change what you're going to do and the work that that goal had during the course of the year. So it's a chance for that, do we all have the same understanding? Where do we stand? And to help sort of build that evidence of goal progress.
Awesome. Like,
Okay.
any questions?
Aren't you glad I didn't take time to set up a slideshow?
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you very much for spending your entire day in the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District.
Which is an amazing place to be,
So-
if you read our community profile.
I didn't get to pick any apples, though.
We really appreciate all the work.
Yeah.
There is an apple tree outside the central.
There
office.
there is.
That's an apple tree?
Yeah.
You can get
We have
some.
composting, fresh produce, flowers,
Lots of horses.
horses.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm
Definitely
not.
do horseback riding
Probably
here.
not, obviously.
Polo.
All right, so, are we done with Dorothy?
Yes.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank
You are
you.
allowed to leave at this point.
Several of you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you,
Thank you-
Dorothy.
Thank you very
Good
much.
night.
Careful on the ice out there.
All right, let's see how quickly we can get through the last of these.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually not much heavy lifting at all.
Except some money somewhere.
Yeah, first up is, yes, vote to appoint John Bucco to the school committee for Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School District. I didn't realize that was the whole full name. It's a mouthful.
Do you want me to make a motion? And
Yes,
then you can
please.
just- I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee vote to consent to appoint John W. Bucco to the school committee for Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School District.
Second?
I think
Any discussion?
we should, now his name
His
just
name.
slipped my mind, Bill.
Ketchum.
No, that's from Hamilton. Oh, we should thank him. He's done it, yeoman's
Forever.
work forever.
Okay,
I
I
want to
can
say his name
find
is
this out.
Nelson, but
Nichols?
I can't.
Bill
Nichols, is it Bill
Nichols?
Nichols?
Yeah, it's in the letter.
Oh, perfect, thank you. I was like, why can't, so we
There's a lot of-
we
lot
should
of
thank
letters.
Bill Nichols, because he has been the Wenham rep for a very long time, and he,
22
you
years.
don't get a big vote in that, because it's proportional, and so his vote doesn't really count for anything, but he would go. So
Yep.
we
That's great.
appreciate that, and I also think that Mr. Bucco is a fantastic choice, as his profession and his philosophy lines up really well, so.
I agree, and thank you, Bill Nichols. 22 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
It is.
Fantastic.
That's a lot of meetings to live up to, kids.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor?
It should only be for Wenham, right? Or is it for the?
It's
Wenham?
only the
for-
Wenham people can
sorry.
vote, yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
because it's
I
appointed by
remember
the.
this from last time. They have
Yeah,
it.
So
because
it's
last time
Wenham,
Gene
it's
got to vote
unanimous.
all on his own.
As I was only.
Ahala. So it's only Wenham who are voting, so it's 4 of us that are present, Wenham.
Fantastic. All right, so now we have donations from Friends of Cutler, Ed Fund, and
I move
Yeah,
that
that's
the
it.
Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee accept the donation from the Friends of Cutler for the amazing Nano Brothers Juggling Show.
Second?
any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank
Excited
you,
for the
Friends of
jugglers?
Cutler. I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee vote to accept the grant from Hamilton Wenham Ed Fund for Basama.
Second?
Dance.
dance. Sorry, for Basama dance.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, the school committee negotiations subcommittee, it was brought up that we should put a third member on there. Open to nominations if you want to nominate yourself. I don't think that's a bad thing to do. So Michelle and I are very very amicable. So,
I nominate Michelle Bailey. Look at her hair.
I'm not sure what we have coming up at this point, but
Well, I
there's
think
always
Dr.
something that's.
Kuchenberger has something she would like to discuss with somebody.
So,
Wait a second.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Michelle Horgan.
Okay,
So-
fine.
don't get too excited.
It's only because it's late. Otherwise, her enthusiasm would be
I would be dancing.
off the charts.
So,
Do you accept, Michelle?
Yeah, fine. We just have one thing to talk about. Hopefully nothing bad will come up, so.
all right, all those in favor?
Woohoo,
Welcome, Michelle.
congratulations and welcome, Michelle, to negotiations. Bailey, that is.
Yeah, right.
Now we have-
It's on my gray hair. On my gray hairs from June.
Sure. All right, so up next is the chair report. The only thing that I had to mention is we have not had any interest in the open seat from Town of Hamilton, so I guess we're just gonna have to push that.
Could we ask the Hamilton Select Board if they would be amicable to not appointing someone? Because at this point, by the time that process would all happen, we would be well into having approved our first budget, maybe even close to approving the final budget, and the election would be
I would
coming
agree. I
along
was going to
quickly?
say the same thing.
I'll tell you what my
But
one.
they may not be, which is okay, but.
Right, because one, they're losing that seat at the table temporarily, but two, what makes me nervous is that we need 5 votes to approve the budget, and God forbid someone gets sick or something happens, and, not having that extra person could be critical.
True. I also don't want someone voting on the budget who hasn't been to a
Well, I mean,
budget workshop.
trust me, I get both, I see both sides.
Yeah.
And we've been in the past without someone during the budget and waited till the election.
So,
And I think it's really hard.
I just don't think I'd
Someone
be
coming
doing.
in right during the middle of budget, if they don't understand, if they've never been on school committee before and they come in and can be very overwhelming. We
Do we
might
wanna
not get someone.
Extend the deadline like 2 weeks and see if we get someone in the next 2 weeks,
So
and then.
why don't we do that, and then, so at least
Wanna
now it's out on the table.
Communicate that with them, or?
So do you want me to repost it?
I
Or
guess so.
re-disseminate it through our, Blackboard Connect?
Lucky you missed the Cyber Monday, but you can still get in on this.
Yeah, we need to sell it more.
Michelle, I think you're getting a little slap happy
I'm in charge of a newsletter now. I have to come up with these snazzy things all the time.
Do we have a Facebook thing or social media? Do we have, what do we?
We never
How-
started one.
What happened
I
with
posted that on
communications?
Facebook. I did.
You did, but we
I
don't have
sure
we
did.
don't actually have a official,
And we
No.
received email.
so, and I actually
But,
took
well,
the
there's
Gene.
the Twitter for the district.
I'm off the town sites,
Wow. You're off too, huh?
so, done. So I was just handed a list of some thank yous. Eastern Bank for $250, the Ed Fund $250, and the Friends of Bucher for $150. And it turned over to Dr. Kuchenberger to tell me what this means.
So we are annually, the district in the past has always had like a holiday gathering or holiday celebration, like the Wednesday before break. We've sort of rebranded it this year. We're calling it the Leadership Team's Winter Gathering, and it's all about celebrating our success and showing appreciation for one another and the staff. And so we came together, Alan Topier, our IT director, Catherine Donovan, and myself, to sort of think about how can we make it more social, maybe a bit more intimate. And so we're changing the venue. It's going to be in the middle school multipurpose room this year. And then I also connected with our art department, our secondary art department, and they're working on generating a program that's going to include students, our chorus, singing sort of as folks come. There will be some brief remarks from the leadership team, and then we also will have an instrumental performance, and we'll cap the whole afternoon off with a slideshow of success. And so that's why we have all those pictures. Principals and other members of the leadership team have been asking staff to submit just memorable moments from throughout the year, and it's really fun to see them all coming in, and we're going to put that together into a slideshow. And then one other addition, there's always been kind of snacks or hors d'oeuvres that were served, and this year we are trying to make it a little fancier for our staff to show our appreciation. So the leadership team members will be, butlering hot hors d'oeuvres, and we wanted to see if there was a way to include the community in this whole idea of appreciation and celebrating the success of our staff and our students. And so Don Gallant, who's our treasurer, reached out to some folks and was able to garner some support and sponsorship from Eastern Bank, and then from the Ed Fund, and then Friends of Bucher. So far we almost have the total cost of the gathering covered just through these sponsorships and donations. So we're really appreciative. We wanted to continue to have it even though we're having a curtailment and we're in the midst of some budget challenges, and we're really grateful for our community partners for reaching out and supporting us because our staff deserve it.
Yes, they do.
That's great.
If we're available, do you want us to help out? The school committee
Yes,
help
we would
out?
love for you to come. So it's on Wednesday, the 18th. It's an early release Wednesday, so we'll start around 1:30, and then it's all wrapped up by 3.
And you want us to bus
Oh.
tables and everything?
That would be great. I think
Say
Catherine
what?
Donovan's even
What day?
has some white gloves.
At what time?
Perfect.
1:30.
1:30.
And we have school committee.
Very excellent.
So we have to accept those, or we're just thanking them?
We don't have to accept them because they're 3 separate donations, all from 3 separate entities under the $500 amount. So we just wanted to mention a thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So that way, the next meeting we may have others. I know that he's still working on a few other folks, but we didn't want the event to happen without acknowledging their sponsorship. We will send them a nice thank you note, though.
Just want to go back to extending the deadline for acceptance of a letter. What do we want the date to be? January 2nd? No.
2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks. And that would be what? What date is that?
18th?
Okay, thank you.
Or wait,
Well, you
we
wanted
said
the
the
day
2nd, right? So
before.
the 16th, right? Because I think the
closed.
second was when we closed,
Yeah,
so
so
we'll
the
do the 16th.
16th.
Okay, thank you.
My computer's gonna die.
We should make it a PO that if you get appointed, you run as an incumbent in the election.
Ooh.
Correct.
You get a what?
Run
Run
as
as
an
an
incumbent.
incumbent, which means your name goes to the
Ooh.
top of the list.
That's how I got this wonderful hearing.
Good.
The game
Well,
is
your
just
name
a-
will be at the top anyways, right? When you rerun?
So, nice.
That was good. Gonna give you $5 later.
All right.
What? Say that again?
150.
150.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
The committee reports, Capital Financial Planning Committee.
No update. We do have a meeting on the 11th, I believe, next.
Yes,
The
on the
10th.
11th.
Next
Yep.
Wednesday.
Wait, it's,
I thought it was the 10th.
it's the 10th. It's
Oh,
a
did I
week
10th?
from Wednesday.
Tuesday.
The Tuesday is
So
the
it's the
10th.
11th. No, it's on the 11th.
Yeah, I have it on.
I have it on the 11th. We could not meet on the Tuesday.
Whoops.
I thought
Somebody
we wanted
has a
it
problem.
before the meeting.
It's
The
not a
meeting's
Christmas
on the
concert, is
18th.
it?
Or is it the 10th?
it is the 11th.
The 11th.
11th.
Keep trying me.
I had it already scheduled in.
So, yeah, so I think we're expected to get a preview of the capital requests in advance of the meeting on the 18th. So that's the,
And we're going to see a preliminary budget too.
agenda item. 7 o'clock at someplace, superintendent's office, I believe.
Okay.
I need to remember to put the agenda together.
Okay, the policy committee.
We have several policies ready, but we'd have to get them to you, so
Okay.
we'll work on it. I would clear your calendars for a lot of reading over the Christmas break.
There's something I wanted to ask you, and I can't remember what it is, but I don't think it needs to happen now.
It's okay.
Right.
Did we decide we're meeting on the 18th? If Dorothy's coming back, we may as well. Did we decide that or skip it?
I thought we had scheduled a meeting for
No,
the
I
18th.
meant for policy.
Oh.
I don't think we ever.
I don't think we finalized
decided.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
'Cause then that's when
we might be meeting next
his
2
prelim
weeks,
budget.
so. If there's something you
That's
feel we need
different.
to review, let us know.
No, I said.
But we've reviewed
No, I was-
a lot of things.
On the 18th, he's presenting his prelim budget.
You're gonna be
Alright.
shocked at how much there's to
Yeah.
read.
We're not voting on it January 8th. You have to have it December 18th.
Let's move on to the consent
Getting the
agenda.
budget really late compared to the last couple of years.
Right before the time.
So, can I get a
I
motion?
consent.
I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee accept the consent agenda as is, and there can be no changes.
Second.
All those in favor? Topics for next meeting.
Okay, so,
We've
Open
got-
the warrant for elections,
yeah.
because that's the only time we can do that, in order to get it published in the Chronicle in time. And a prelim budget.
Dorothy Presser?
Yeah, I get Dorothy.
And if we can make sure that we get, if we could get all the attachments in our package, that would be exhibits in the package, especially if they come day of. I'd really like to get them the Friday before would be great.
So we're also supposed to have an operating protocol that's on our goals, but hasn't been written yet, and it won't be written until the 18th, so maybe that's not the next one, but you can put it on in January. I'm just updating you on the goal. It isn't happening until January.
We have to decide if we
Are we
want
doing the review thing?
the 18th or the night for hurry.
So, Dr. Kuchenberger, so if you're pulling this budget stuff together, this, that, and the other, would you like to have like the Christmas break time to just put your thoughts together about the goal so that we do the formative assessment thing? Or would you prefer just to do it and be done with it? And
It doesn't really matter to me. I kind of just update it as I go. So it depends how formal of a presentation you want, but we are going to be very busy with the budget.
I think we should wait till after the new year.
Sounds good.
I mean, how do other people feel about that?
So I guess what the question would be, how detailed do we want? So, because if you look back at the goals that we had agreed on, that we had approved back in September, there's actually notes on everything that's going already that you can access, right now. But if we want something more, like that, this is something that could sort of.
Oh, so in the Google Drive, is that what you're saying? You put stuff on there in the Google Drive?
So I've added some like kind of finish dates and things like that as I've gone, but I also have a separate spreadsheet where I've been like cataloging basically a library of evidence that supports each goal. So like agendas or different meeting notes and things like that that also support progress towards the goals.
Do we want to push it to January, or can we, yeah, I mean, it's definitely right up your alley.
I aspire to be that.
But, you know, I think this is something we could probably bust through pretty quickly.
Okay.
If that's what we wanted to do.
Either way. I just did
And
want
not
to
to put
put,
more
I
on
did
your
want to
plate.
put work on,
Right.
I know there's a lot to be done in the next 2 weeks.
So-
In
But just
addition
going
to
by
your
this,
work, there's a lot of
I'm already like,
planning.
Vinny and I are going on a retreat.
Okay.
to the Black Cow Bar.
When do we do it after the break?
Okay, I mean,
'Cause I think the focus, again,
Should
we
be-
want to make sure that
Yeah.
Vinny and Julie are set up for success and that for the budget, this is their
Yeah.
first budget, so.
And for a happy holiday and,
maybe share out this doc with them
Again.
in advance, just to, so everyone can take a peek at it.
Yeah.
All right, other than that, anyone else have anything else? We made up a lot of time, right? So,
Yeah, not too
it's
I
actually
move that we
10:11.
adjourn at 10:12.
Second.
All those in favor? We only, we made up so much time there, that was awesome.